D1 baseball right now projecting them as a 2 seed, still in play though to potentially host as a 1.
Yeah, I think if they can roll this thing out, they got 5 more games. They can get up to that 15-16 win mark. That puts them in the top 16, which would give them a host spot in Norman.
For Kentucky, Nick Mingione and his Wildcats last 4 in, so they're more on the bubble in this conversation.
Well, they have them in right now, but they've got to win. They've got 11 wins right now within the conference. Again, that magic number usually lands at 13. They got 5 more SEC games in the regular season to get 2 more wins. I think the conference tournament counts, but remember, this year it's single elimination, so Kentucky needs a few more wins.
Well, they got a veteran on the bump, probably the most veteran pitcher in college baseball right now, the 7th-year senior Nick McKay, a guy that started his career at South Dakota State.
6 foot, 210-pound right-hander. Nick McKay is the active Division I strikeout leader with 305 strikeouts. Spent most of his time at South Dakota State. This is his first year at Kentucky, making his 13th start. The walk total's high, 33 walks. That's why the ERA within the conference is a little high. He had 12 strikeouts mid-April versus Tennessee in 7 2/3. Only gave up the 1 hit, so he's capable.
Jason Walk looks at strike 1. OU will lead off one of the most dynamic offensive threats in college baseball because he has the wheels and the electricity and the audacity to turn a single into a double. The top 3, Walk, Gamble, Carmichael, they did most of the damage for Boomer Sooner in game 1. Shift is on to the right side of the infield. As you'll remember, Jason Walk led off this series with a missile to right for a single. Partly cloudy, 65 degrees. Winds from the east at 10 miles per hour. And this ball is hit down to the gap. This is one of those moments where Walk will typically give a strong look to second base. He's not the biggest dude, Todd, but he can make things happen.
Yeah, he's a threat every time he gets on. You get that leadoff guy with no outs on base. Within any inning, they usually score a nice compact swing on the curveball from Nick McKay. Nick McKay will use that curveball equally against left-handed hitters and right-handed hitters. Nice leadoff base hit for Walk.
Talking about the 2 best teams in the SEC in terms of stolen bases, Kentucky by far is number 1, but behind them is OU.
By 20.
Yeah.
Within the league, Kentucky's stolen 58 bags. Oklahoma's next in second place with 39. So they both run.
Battery made for Nick McKay is Devin Burks, one of the ultimate leaders. It has seen a lot of great baseball around here in Lexington. Part of the team that went to Omaha a season ago. Beyond that, it's really new faces all over the place. 1-0 to Trey Gamble. He shows bunt, and there is Walk. Walk will beat the throw from Devin Burks. So add another stolen base to the total for the sophomore out of Georgia.
Yeah, Devin Burks has only thrown out 3 of now 26 runners. But again, we all know that you steal on the pitcher, a little slow to the plate, and Walk can get it. Nice.
Stolen base number 16 for Jason Walk. Trey Gamble went 2 for 4 in game number 1. A 1-run loss for the Sooners. Swinging through that, a little giddy up 92 from Nick McKay.
Yeah, he can get it up to 94, 95 miles an hour. He's got a 25% whiff rate on all 3 pitches. Usually you're stronger at one pitch than the other. His fastball, his changeup, and his curveball all get about a 1/4 of a swing and miss every time he throws it.
Opponents have a 213 average and balls put in play against McKay. That is the best mark in the SEC. The problem that you alluded to when we discussed that stat coming into this game is the situation that he finds himself in right now, 3-1.
And he's better against left-handed hitters. 158 against for left-handed hitters, like Trey Gamble. 204 versus right-handers.
23 walks in SEC play. That's the most in the conference. And that is walk number 24 in conference play. So 2 on for Easton Carmichael, who can turn a fastball around in a hurry. He went 2 for 5 in game number 1, had a 2-run home run, helping OU get off to a good start. And one of the best players in the SEC.
Well, this is where walks hurt, right? You start stacking them, like a couple walks in an inning or a base hit and a walk, and especially in the first when you haven't got an out yet. And that's where those 33, now 34 walks within the conference can rear its ugly head, or overall for Nick McKay.
Carmichael fouls that one off. It's a fantastic defensive catcher as well. Came into the series with 27 RBIs in SEC play. 5th best in the conference. 0-1 from McKay. That runs in, and it's 1-1.
They bleed Oklahoma in this family. Darby, the dad, caught for Oklahoma back in the early 90s. Braden, the brother, pitcher, 2021 through 2023.
Easton was a 3rd-team All-American last season. Trying to get the Sooners on the board again. Waves through that, and it's 1-2. He's been on a tear, had 2 home runs in the 2nd game of the most recent series for OU against Ole Miss. One of them ended up off the scoreboard. Fights this one off. And Todd, 2 very good teams when it comes to 2-strike approaches. Tough to put these guys away.
Well, and I like the fastball right there because as a hitter, you're thinking off speed, guaranteed, 1 and 2. But I think for Nick McKay, he doesn't want to get deep in a count. He doesn't want to walk yet another guy or put him in a hitter's count. So at 1 and 2, you're not messing around. You're going right after him. Now he may have to do something different. But that first pitch right there, fastball, was good.
Once again, fighting that one off. Lunging for it, but staying alive.
Well, you'll see in college baseball now there's a lot of acknowledgement with 2 strikes. Like they actually look in the dugout and they say, well, I'm going to fight with 2 strikes. We always did it internally 20 or 30 years ago. But I think the acknowledgement verbally really helps, not only you, but the team. And you see that a lot on just about every group or every team in the SEC nowadays.
Here's the 1-2 again from McKay. That's upstairs, 2-2.
Now this is the action pitch right here. You have to make a pitch, which for me is like shake, shake fastball. Because you try to off speed and you don't get a bite on it. Now you're in a position where you have to pump a fastball in there with nowhere to put him and nobody out.
Tread lightly around Easton Carmichael. Case in point, that's hit hard and under the glove of Tyler Bell. Oklahoma will wave Jason Walk around. The throw into 3rd, not in time. And advancing to 2nd off the throw is Easton Carmichael. And the Sooners are cooking 1-0 OU.
3 straight great at bats to open this game for Oklahoma. Jason Walk with the single in the gap. Then Trey Gamble draws the walk. Easton Carmichael gets one right past the shortstop Bell. Scores the first run, and Carmichael able to take 2nd on the throw that went to 3rd base.
3 RBIs now for Carmichael in the series, as this will prompt a visit to the bump. Dan Rozelle, pitching coach for the Kentucky Wildcats. Yeah, it's an Oklahoma offense where it's a lot like Kentucky in the way they try to beat you in multiple ways. They preach chaos, and we saw that with Jason Walk. He was able to lace that ball into right center field, get on, take 2nd base. What does it do when you have an offense that puts that much pressure on you?
Well, clearly as a pitcher, when you've got to split your attention between home plate and whoever's on the base, it matters. It makes a difference, you know. And for right now, especially getting that leadoff guy on with no outs, Jason Walk, who's a threat to steal, which he did. And that just puts more thinking going on for Nick McKay.
Hit well, but well foul from Jackson Willits, the 4-hole hitter. His dad, Reggie Willits, is the associate head coach and in control of this OU offense as Skip Johnson handles everything on the pitching side. And it's up to make it 1-1. Sophomore from Fort Cobb, Oklahoma. Has been struggling coming into this series. Against Ole Miss, was just 2 for 11, 4 strikeouts. And 0 for 2 with 2 punch-outs in game 1. Fouled back, so still fighting with that 2K approach. What was your 2-strike approach?
Well, it's choking up, spreading your stance out a little bit, expanding the zone, and keeping your eyes still. You know, trying to keep your move still to the baseball with 2 strikes. I ended up doing it my entire at-bat.
This one is grounded to Luke Lawrence at second base, but job well done by Jackson Willits. That's just knowing what your team needs. Put something in play, and OU gets another, and it's 2-0 Boomer Sooner.
Yep, so with no outs, you got that situation, and he just rolls over to the right side. That gets the run in, and it gets the runner over to third with less than 2 outs. So that, other than getting base hit, that's a perfect job by Jackson Willits.
That's something you said in your playing days you felt like you had a lot of control with.
Yeah, I mean, when I was with the Cubs.
Oh, look
well,
at this
I'll tell you,
chopper. The slapper will end up foul. Carry on.
Dusty Baker was our manager, and he'd make me bunt. Well, I haven't bunt in my life. I played at LSU, you know, I played in high school, and then through the minor leagues, they want you to learn how to swing the bat. And so I got up there. I'm bunting with a guy on second base and nobody on. I told him, look, I can roll over with the best of them to the right side as a left-handed hitter. Let me just, with a chance to get a base hit, let me just roll over it and get the guy over. And so that's, now you get an at-bat for that instead of a sacrifice.
Yep.
But I ended up doing that the rest of the year.
This one is hit in the center field, and it's down. And the runner will tag from third base, and Easton Carmichael will score. So this is just team baseball, winning offensive baseball right now from OU to make it a 3-0 lead.
Which you don't see a lot of. We talked to Skip Johnson before the game, and now in this day and age, it's all who can hit it the furthest and who can throw it the hardest.
Yeah.
He goes, and that's not really baseball. But we're seeing right now Oklahoma manufacturing basically 3 runs here in the top of the first.
So making some adjustments, or do we have a challenge here? Looks like they are challenging that the runner, Easton Carmichael, left early from third base.
And you're more likely to do that with a shallow fly ball because, you know, when you're at third base as a runner and you think that you might have a chance to get thrown out, you're going to try to get as big of a jump as you can.
And so that is what the review is for. So that was Griffin Cameron out there in center field. So see if we have a look that shows it. They're showing it on the big board here inside Kentucky Proud Park. And obviously have to line up when Carmichael and his left foot left the base compared to when it arrived in the mid of
These
Griffin
coaches,
Cameron.
these coaches are more likely to use their challenges with scoring plays than anything else. And you'll find that most of the time they're not correct. In other words, that's probably it didn't look like he left early, but it's still worth the challenge.
This one's really close, Todd. He's starting the movement before it's caught, but right there when it is caught, it appears that left foot still is on the bag, barely.
And it's the
Caught.
deal where they're going to have enough to overturn
Yeah.
the call on the field, which I don't see enough right there. But it looked like it was going to be a close play at home. I mean, you know, the center fielder coming in and then make that accurate throw. And so as a runner, you're trying to get, I mean, that is a perfect jump as long as they don't get him for leaving early.
Like you said, finding enough evidence there to overturn the call on the field, which was a sac fly RBI.
You'd have to get right in there between the bag and the cleat to find out if there's some space.
Skip Johnson, head coach for OU, looking on. 8th season with the Sooners and has done a fantastic job. 3 straight regional appearances. Took Boomer Sooner to Omaha in 2022.
Finals.
Yeah?
Yeah, that's the magic run by Ole Miss, who I heard a story the other day, wasn't even going to get in to the field of 64. If you remember, they were like the last 4 in. Got him.
Wow. So wipe off that sac fly RBIs. Now a double play there. Todd, I just don't know.
Right there. I mean, that's as close as it gets to be overturned. Pretty impressive.
OU still does get 2 on the board. Kentucky will try to answer here in the bottom of the first. Skip Johnson rolling out his Saturday arm. It's a good one in Cade Crossland. Junior lefty out of Rockwall, who reached 97.8 on the gun last weekend against Ole Miss.
6'1", 210-pound junior is making his 10th start. His last outing, he got the win against Ole Miss. Went 6, struck out 8, only gave up the 5 hits. Fastball can get you up about 96 miles an hour. It's got 2 looks. It spins, the curveball and the more slider, left to right action. He uses 40% changeups to right-handers, so it's almost as much as he uses his fastball to right-handed hitters. Changeups in the low 80s. Equally good against left-handed hitters and right-handed hitters at about a 260.
Well, he's going to get a test right off the jump against Tyler Bell, who has been a game changer, especially since moving into the leadoff spot. Tyler Bell now hitting in the leadoff spot for the 12th straight game. He also has an 11-game hitting streak to go along with that, and all he does, reach base safely in 45 of 46 games.
And probably the most high-profile prospect they've ever landed here in Lexington. He was a second-round pick, 66th overall by the Rays last year. Decided to come to college, and it's kind of the day and age we live in, about high picks that are ending up in college because of the ballparks, the coaching staff, you know, and the high level of baseball they play here in the SEC.
Looks at a first pitch strike. Now, Bell, anytime you have a triple on the box score, probably feeling good about it. If you get a home run, you may want that instead, and Bell thought he had one. We thought he had one in game number 1, and they were blowing the sirens here in the stadium. They were celebrating like it was gone, but upon review, it turns out that they ruled it was a triple off the top of the fence, not up and over.
This kid can really play, especially playing a premier defensive position at short as a freshman. Of course, waves through that one, but he hit the one off top of the wall, last night, and we thought it was gone, but opposite field pop for Tyler Bell.
Well, that's his biggest point that he's trying to work on right there is the strikeout rate, and that's number 30 in SEC play, a big number for him. But and when you'll see him find that barrel, it is electric. Also plays a mean shortstop as well. Here's Luke Lawrence, was really good in game 1, 2 of 4. Had a double, drove in a run. Junior from the Chicago area. Lefty on lefty matchup. Trying to work out. Does not get the call, and it's 1-1. Crossland with a 5.95 ERA in his 7 previous starts in conference play. And that's up. Crossland throwing to Easton Carmichael. Check swing, and it's strike 2. This is where you'll see the thud on the chest. I got you. Repeat it to his teammates in the dugout. This pitch with 2 strikes, not about him. It's about the rest of his team doing what he can to extend this at-bat.
Yeah, and this is a tough matchup, lefty on lefty. I was a left-handed hitter, and so I spent most of the at-bat looking up the middle the other way. I didn't try to pull these guys until you got in a plus count. Now at 2-2, you keep that right lead shoulder in, you look up the middle the other way, stay on that slider that moves away from the barrel. And that's why you see him getting jammed right there, because he's protecting against that slider that's going to be on that outside corner. If you have any thought in your mind you're going to pull it, you wave through the slider, and you might not even hit the fastball. And so this approach right here where you just said acknowledge to the dugout, you've got to have a 2-strike approach, and that's the thought process going on right now.
And in that breakout 3rd inning where they scored 4 in game 1, outstanding ABs with 2 strikes. So the way they say it's almost like bull riding, 8 seconds. When they get to 2 strikes, they want to think 8 in terms of getting the at-bat to 8 pitches. And Luke Lawrence is doing his job here, looking for the payoff with a full count delivery. And what a job right there at the signal back to his dugout. I got you.
Well, the umpire certainly didn't get him, because I don't know where that was. I don't know.
You think he should be running the other direction?
Yeah, that was tight. Wow.
There's Coach Mingione, one of the best in the business, 2-time SEC Coach of the Year last season and his first season on the job. Also National Coach of the Year in both those campaigns.
Does a fantastic job of turning selfish high school kids, and you got to be selfish to be good at baseball, into unselfish energy on the field. I mean, his teams just always have the same personality, just love each other, pull for each other. He's got these sayings. He makes them, you know, we were on the field earlier, he's making them recite them back to us, you know. And just an outstanding human being, Nick Mingione, and two-time National Coach of the Year in the last 8 years. I mean, that's incredible.
And this is a big human being up to bat right now. Cole Hage, talking 6'3", 240, from Fargo, North Dakota. Went to Columbia, was an Ivy League star. Now is a beast here for the Wildcats. 11 home runs on the season. He's the team leader in that department. So when people try to put this Kentucky offense in a box and they look at the stolen bases, the sacrifice bunts, which they do a lot of, they try to say small ball, but that is not the case. When they have guys that can grip and rip, they have the freedom and the green light to do so. And top of the list this season is Hage.
Well, they're going to do whatever it takes.
Yep.
They can pop some homers, but they're fourth in the league in doubles and triples. They lead the league by far in hit by pitches, stolen bases. They do have the league lead in sack bunts as well, but I think they get that moniker strictly because the 3 and 4 holes aren't selfish. I mean, they'll bunt for you, and if they need the bunt from second to third with nobody out, they're willing to do it.
Crossland will pay some attention to Luke Lawrence over there on first base. Is it different when you come in to play a team like this? Like OU, this is the first series ever against Kentucky, seeing this specific style of baseball.
Well, I think we've gotten away from small ball, you know, like we saw Oklahoma pull off in the first inning with the bunts and the, you know, move them over, sacrifice, get them in, that type of thing. It's more of an unselfish approach like we were talking about, you know, at the plate. I'm not trying to hit a 600-foot home run. I'm just going to do whatever it takes and put the ball in play. I think you said it. Both teams do a great job of that.
3-1 for the lefty. Fouled off and full count. Back-to-back hitters. Again, the tap on the chest. And that's something that we're seeing adopted more and more in college baseball, that same move. It seems like it started with this program.
Well, it started with Jake Gautreaux at Mississippi State. It was a two-strike fight is what he called it. And
Yep.
now everybody kind of does it. Again, we did it internally 30 years ago, but I love that they acknowledge to the group that they're going to do it.
Back-to-back walks issued by Crossland. Full count situation. So 2 on here for Kentucky with James McCoy coming up.
Walks kill you, and we saw it with 2 runs in the first inning. There's a direct correlation to how many walks you give up in a season and what your record is. You can look at a lot of different stats, you know, home runs, giving up, whatever. But you give up a lot of walks, free passes. We saw that last week with Texas at Arkansas. Texas gave up 30 free passes, 22 walks, 8 hit by pitches, and guess what? They got swept by Arkansas. You give up free passes, you lose in this league.
James McCoy, big opportunity here. An all-everything type player for Kentucky. You need a guy to fill the spot. McCoy can do that. And with all the injuries that this program has had, especially this season, they've needed guys like McCoy to be willing to play different spots. First base, all the different outfield spots, third base as well. We've even seen him pitch. Two for 3 with a run driven in. Strikeout and the stolen base in game number 1. Huge win for Kentucky against OU. It's Kentucky not looking just to get on the board, but crooked number perhaps as well. 1-0 from Crossland. Check swing, he goes, and it's 1-1.
We've seen a few half moves to the baseball from the fastball from Cade Crossland. I think they're having a hard time picking up on it. And a lot of times, you're looking as a hitter out at the pitcher and his mannerisms. A lot of times, if he's kind of slow in his delivery, you'll think it's an off-speed pitch. And then he pumps that fastball in there, and you're just not able to react.
He uses his four-seam fastball 55% of the time in SEC play. That's a high usage number for the four-seam. Then throws a changeup off it, not quite as much, but
well, the only way the changeup works is if it's got the same arm action as the fastball. So Trevor Hoffman, the best to ever do it,
Yeah.
you'd face him and it'd be 96, 97 with the fastball, and then it'd be 79, 80 with the change, and you had to guess because his arm action was the exact same.
And there's another hit by pitch. 130 now for Kentucky. That is 2 away from tying the program record. They take immense pride in this, and we see why. It's now 30 of those hit by pitch in SEC play with 2 strikes, Todd.
75 hit by pitches on the year for Kentucky. And it's not like you lean over the plate or you actually run across plate and try to get hit. It's just the mentality that you're not going to move. And I know as a hitter, a lot of times, you know, your initial reaction when you see a ball coming at you is to get out of the way. And I did a lot of that. But I think the mentality now for most teams is I'm staying in the box. They use wiffle balls in fall to throw them at them so they won't get scared of it, right? They practice this stuff. And so the idea is I'm just not going to move and flinch when the ball's at me, which is your natural reaction. And the result is 75 hit by pitches this year for Kentucky, and they've led the league the last 3 years. It's incredible.
This is overall now at 130. Include non-conference play as well.
Oh, that's right. 75 within the conference.
Yeah.
Which is double the next team.
Now here comes Skip Johnson. This is something he talked to us about, the issue with Cade Crossland, the big inning. He's got a problem in not slowing himself down when things are going bad. And it's usually just 1 inning. I don't think Skip Johnson thought it would be the first inning in this situation.
When things are going well, you have, both as a pitcher or as a hitter, it's real easy to slow things down, you know, and you're under control. That's when they call it the zone. You feel good about yourself. When things aren't going well is when everything starts speeding up. You're exactly right. And so that meeting is just to calm him down, calm the heart rate down a little bit. 2 walks and a hit by pitch in the last 3 hitters for Cade Crossland. And he's got to use that fastball more and now just dial back into the zone and hope they hit it at somebody. You keep dancing around the zone, you're going to get yourself in more trouble.
Caius Gargett is the man that will try to cash in. 2 for 5 with the bases loaded this season. Was 0 for 3 with a couple of strikeouts in game 1. Had that huge collision that we saw down the first baseline with Kyson Witherspoon. This is a power-packed young man. First pitch swinging, and it's strike 1.
Yeah, you talk about power-packed. I love this stat about him. He held the youth world deadlift record at 10 years old. And then, same kid, takes his dog around the country on dog shows.
Unbelievable. That's being well-versed.
And then he ran over Kyson Witherspoon last night on first base. So.
And oh, by the way, you're a star in the SEC.
That's right. A lot going on for Caius Gargett.
He's been dealing with a forearm injury. Popped up against Mississippi State. Fights this one off foul. So the Wildcats have loaded the bases with 2 walks and a hit by pitch. Every one of those batters had a 2-strike count.
And that's after he struck out Tyler Bell to start the game. So you would have thought Cade Crossland would feel pretty good about himself and just got in trouble and hasn't been able to work out of it.
More 2-strike magic. Not chase that one, and it's 2-2.
There's another 1-2 fastball. We've seen that a lot in this first inning by both teams. And again, I love it because as a hitter, you're thinking all kind of different things. And that's the time to zip the fastball in there when that hitter's sitting back on the off speed.
Crossland trying to work out of this jam he got himself into. Upstairs, full count. Love to get a ground ball here. Get out of this. 27th pitch of the inning. On the way to Caius Gargett. Gargett to center field. Jason Walk is there. Lawrence will tag. Hage takes third, and Kentucky is on the board.
But Cade Crossland delivers a strike, got an out, which is huge. We talked to Skip Johnson about that. We talk more about it later. He's a scratch bowler, Skip Johnson. So I asked him, like the third roll in the 10th frame when you're going for a 300 game, which Skip Johnson's done 10 times.
Crazy.
That pressure of having to do it is exactly what you saw right there. I've already walked 2 guys, and I've hit a guy. by Cade Crossland. Now I got to deliver a 3-2 fastball. I'm going to walk the third guy and put the fourth guy on in a row, and he comes up with a strike. I mean, that was a lot more difficult than it looked.
It's just really impressive. Again, that was another two-strike approach. Kentucky knows who they are offensively, and they embrace this do whatever it takes style of play. Pat Herrera steps in, 1 for 3 with a strikeout in game number 1. He wore 1 as well, and it's great to see him back in the lineup. He was absolutely rolling, went 3 for 3 with a home run, drove in 5 against Louisville on April 22nd, but injured his groin after that. So up until the opener against OU was just being used in pinch hit situations. He's a team leader, guy that came into the series hitting .319, number 1 on this Kentucky roster. This is hit to right field. Sam Christensen trying to come on. He will not get it. It's over his head. 1 run scores. Gargett is booking it from first base, and on his way to third is Herrera. He's in the Wildcats. Do it again. Kentucky takes the lead on the misplay in right off the bat of Pat Herrera.
Well, the misplay came second. The first thing was the read. Sam Christensen had a tough time reading the fact that that ball got in on Herrera and was just able to put it into right field and late jump at the baseball. And then when you make an attempt to try to make the play, you can't keep it in front, or you hit it off the end of the bat. Same result, just looks like the swing's going to get to him, but the ball doesn't. And watch the hop it takes when it hits the turf. I mean, straight up in the air and left to right bounce. 2 more runs for the Cats.
It goes back to why you avoid those free base runners, because all 3, the free passes, the 2 walks, and the hit by pitch, have come around to score. And they will rule that a triple for Pat Herrera. But just fantastic base running. Right, when you're a baseball junkie, you love to see the guys running the bases, and the instincts and the hustle from Gargett over at first base. That was impressive. There's Ryan Schwartz. Big cut, and it's 1-2.
Well, and Cole Hage earlier too, like the sac fly to center field. It scores the first run. Cole Hayes gets over to third base. You know, I mean, just the base running by both sides have been great, and we're still in the first inning.
Schwartz hitting .278 in his freshman campaign. That's out, and it's 2-2. Well, left field. This is down. Kentucky scores again. And Schwartz has himself an RBI single to left. 4-2 Wildcats.
Remember when we talked about walks? And it's not so much putting guys on base. It's that you get behind other hitters, put them in offensive counts. You just don't get away with them, especially in this conference. And behind 3 walks and a hit by pitch becomes a triple, and then now a single by the 7-0 Ryan Schwartz. And Kentucky has answered the 2 runs by Oklahoma in the first with 4 runs so far in the bottom of the first.
And no bunts. Got the hit by pitch. And there's the punt.
Good call.
And pushes this one to Branch at second. It's close. Well, the foot was down. Got him in time. Okay, that completes everything we needed to see from Kentucky in this first inning.
Nostradamus here.
And it looks like Mingione does want to challenge the play.
That's a hard deal to do. Bunt it, pull the bunt, because the pitch has to be there. Like in your mind as a hitter, if you predetermine what you're going to do with the baseball, whether you're swinging or bunting, it's very difficult. But if I'm telling myself I'm going to pull bunt this and it's not the pitch to do it, you end up getting yourself out. But that was actually a great bunt. He did get him. And, you know, as a runner for us, they always told us to hit the front of the bag. Look where he steps, right on top of that green bag. They always said, even if you miss the bag, if it's going to be close at first, step in front. It gives you that split second, you know, quicker to the bag. That might have made a difference on a play like that.
So that review will not go the way for the Wildcats. But I think Mingione will take the overall results from that first inning. All smiles after his Wildcats put 4 on the board. The road to Omaha. And key series, key game for Kentucky and Oklahoma. The Sooners, a team projected in as a 2 seed, according to D1 Baseball. Kentucky among the last 4 in as a projected 3 seed. OU allowed 4 runs in the bottom half of the first after putting up 2 to begin the game. We'll see as we look back as this game progresses how big that overturned sac fly RBI to center field that was overturned ended up being for these Oklahoma Sooners.
Yeah, they lost a run. Guy left over early from third base, although it didn't really look like it, but they did overturn it, so they saw something we didn't.
Sam Christensen, it's now 2-2 against Nick McKay. Shift is on, and the numbers will back it up because he is pull heavy. That ping pong's off the glove of Luke Lawrence, and hitting through the shift with the deflection is Sam Christensen. These are the projected national seeds. So we're talking the top 16. These would be the regional host. What stands out the most to you as we get close to Selection Day?
The fact that they've listed 7 SEC teams in the top 9 as potentially being a top 8. Now Tennessee's 9 right there, but they certainly have a chance to get within the top 8. So would they let 7 SEC schools out of 8, and they just picked them off?
They got Christensen at first base. McKay nailed him. So Christensen gets on and then quickly trots back to the dugout. What a move. Got him off balance.
You saw his upper half kind of leaning towards second base, and that's why they told us take it seriously, like stay balanced as you get that lead and go heel click to heel click. You don't cross over, you don't do anything weird, because the second that pitcher fires it over there and you're off balance, you're out.
So now Mason Hamlin with no one on. And he's down 0-1 to Nick McKay. So if Oklahoma does have a chance to be one of those top 16, this is a series they gotta have.
They've got 5 more games. 2 more here, and then they finish with Texas at home, which is no picnic.
Yeah.
But they definitely have an opportunity to host a regional as a top 16. Oklahoma won't make the top 8, but you know, and hosting's huge. We see it. Like Arkansas, for example, they're 30-3 at home.
Yeah.
LSU is 11-2 at home in the SEC. So home field advantage matters.
Bell will not make the play in time as Hamlin has himself an infield single.
Wow, does that pickoff hurt now? Oklahoma's already had the misfire at third base where he left early, and now they had a pickoff. So when we talked about great base running, now it's hurt Oklahoma. It had first and second, nobody out, instead just first.
Scott Mudler stands in 0 for 3 in game 1. Drew a walk, struck out. Mudler is Carmichael's backup catcher, but play in the DH spot here today. OU has had to switch up their lineup with Dayton Talkie out with an injury. Broken bone in his leg. Suffered that after a 2 home run performance in the series opener against Georgia. But Kentucky's like, don't even talk to us about injuries, because we can go on and on and on.
Yeah, Nick Mingione told us they've had everybody healthy at the end of the year, last couple of years. This year, 7 guys they depended upon have been out.
McKay looking for that spot, will not get the call, and it's 1-2. Last pitch against Mississippi State went 6. Actually pitched well outside, allowing the 3 home runs in the first 3 innings. He was able to work through that and give the Wildcats a shot in that game.
So that's a big part of winning championships, as we know. I mean, you got to have the talent, the ability to do it. You got to have guys do what you don't expect them to do. And then ultimately, you got to stay healthy. And we've seen a few teams in the SEC this year. Florida's another one that just been hit by the injury.
And I would imagine in this era of the transfer portal, NIL, not wanting to sit and wait, depth isn't quite as prevalent for some of these programs as the past.
And you're way more invested now than you were 20 years ago. You know, you invested money. You've brought the guy over with some promises, I'm sure, within the transfer portal. And if they get hurt or they didn't go as well as you hoped, it really affects your group.
McKay got him looking. Strikeout number 1, the national active leader in career strikeouts.
I always thought the fastball in was such a great pitch for the first strike and the third strike. First strike, as a hitter, you see it buried inside. Now you think you got to get the barrel out, and it messes you up for all off speed. With 2 strikes, I'm looking off speed. I'm sitting back and really waiting on something over the plate. And when he burns that 95 inside on you, you can't pull the trigger.
Brings up the number 9 hitter, Dawson Willis. Willis struck out twice in the opener. But has some wheels, 15 stolen bases, so he needs to put this thing in play to make something happen. .242 with 4 home runs, and this is junior season. JUCO transfer out of the state of Louisiana. Looks at strike 1. It's 2-1.
From Ruston, Louisiana. Hour down the road from my house. We had some battles with this group. His dad, Chris, the Willis family, and 10-year-old travel ball.
10-year-old travel ball. That's the peak of travel ball.
Absolutely.
This one is lifted to right field. Ryan Schwartz will camp under it and able to make the play. So Sam Christensen got on, but Nick McKay was able to pick him off. Nothing on the board there for OU.
Florida's been on. My goodness, they got swept 3 of the first 4 weekends of the SEC. Since then, they've swept twice, won their last 4 series, and then gets the opening win against Texas. So I don't know that that's an upset. Florida's been playing great.
Yeah, don't want to mess with the Gators this time of year. Here's Devin Burks leading off for Kentucky after the Wildcats put up a 4 spot in the first inning. Got to Cade Crossland, or maybe Crossland got to himself. Couple walks, hit batter, loaded the bases. And Kentucky just played winning offense. Get those 4 runs across.
But I think it is important to point out the number 1 team in the country has been beat 4 SEC games in a row now. Yeah. Remember, Texas had a big series against Texas A&M 2 weeks ago. Maybe a little headache since then. Go to Fayetteville, get swept, and then lost last night against Florida.
So Texas and OU, the 2 newcomers in the SEC. And in the case of OU, some matchups you've never seen before, like OU, Kentucky. And in the case like Texas, some matchups that you don't get to see often enough that you should see every year. Texas, Arkansas, Texas, Texas A&M. This conference is ridiculous. I'm sure that's not breaking news to you, Todd, doing your thing at LSU back in the day, but I don't know if there's ever been this big of a gap between the SEC and every other conference as there is right now.
What is there, 30 Division I college baseball conferences? Last year in Omaha, only 2 were represented. We had 4 ACC teams and we had 4 SEC teams. The SEC has dominated the national championship over the last 7 years, winning 6 of them.
And another walk, so that's walk number 3. Devin Burks is on. So this is the D1 Baseball Top 10, and it is very heavy with SEC and ACC. Can you even pick a favorite? When you look at that, is there one team that you're like, this is my team? Got to put the chips down on one. It's these guys.
I'm on the Arkansas bandwagon. I just really think with they got a real ace in Root. They got Gage Wood back from injury. I mean, he's been dynamic, you know, and they stack him and Gackle in one game. That's almost unhittable. Vital Shees, the ace from Ohio State last year, is their number 3. The bullpen's crazy good. The offense is best in the country good. They got 8 guys. I love the OPS stat. That shows you the combination of patience and power. You either have one or the other. They have 8 guys with an OPS above 1,000, 1.0.
I think I could watch Aloy swing a bat just on repeat over and over.
And as soon as Vahiva cuts down on the strikeouts, he's a complete package. But, I mean, he plays shortstop. He's a big kid, hits the homers, hitting for 100 points higher this year than he did last year. Yeah, Vahiva's a player. And the brother's not too bad either.
Dalavan, the leadoff guy, 5'9", 190, uses all fields, hits for pop as well. That's a kid pick right there with the Arkansas Razorbacks. 0-2 count here to the leadoff man, Tyler Bell. That walk, by the way, issued to Devin Burks. That's now 4 free passes. They've all been in 2-strike counts.
I think it feels like Cade Crossan's kind of reached back and trying to get a little extra velocity, and he's just missing high. That was a slider outside, so, you know, when you start missing with your fastball, it's going to affect your other pitches too, and you just don't have a feel.
He's got to pay attention to Burks over there at first. Even though he is a catcher, the man can scoot to the 13 in the stolen base category this season. Upstairs, full count.
There's that high fastball again. He's just trying to overthrow, it seems like. Now, Skip Johnson's one of the best, pitching coaches. He sees that. That might have been part of the conversation last inning, but
there's activity up in the OU bullpen. Now 5 full counts for Cade Crossland. That bat will continue. Gavin Jones is up for OU.
He puts himself in these high leverage pitch counts like 3-2. You have to throw a strike, and not only that, everybody in the ballpark knows a fastball is coming because he struggled with his command.
Inside, outs that one, out of play.
You know, what can be a left-hander's biggest asset can also be his biggest liability. So he's staring down Devin Burks, who can run, leads the nation in stolen bases for catchers. And so you're looking right at him, and as a runner, I always thought you could distract the left-hander a little bit.
And there's a throw over to check on him. Trips you up a little bit when you look at a catcher and you see stolen bases like that. But he can move. Big lead there at first base for Burks. And that hits him. And so now Kentucky is 1 shy of the program record for most hit batters in a season. And that is yet another free pass issue with 2 strikes.
So you walk the 9-hole, that's the first problem. And then you hit Tyler Bell, who you struck out back in the first inning. And you see right there, that's it. You know, again, when you lead the league in hit by pitches, you think they do something special. They really don't. You know, they don't lean over the plate. They're not inviting fastballs middle in, but they just don't move. And, you know, a lot of guys can avoid pitches like that. They stay in there and take it.
Infield is now in for Luke Lawrence. It was the first batter that Crossland walked. The bunt is skied, which is not what you want to do, right into the midst of Crossland.
So I've always thought everybody knows you're going to bunt, especially if you're Kentucky. And so get it squared around early, put the barrel at a little bit of an angle. So if you do foul it off, you don't pop it straight in the air. But the main thing is getting set up. If you're trying to trick everybody and be quick about it, that can happen. And so watch, all within one motion, he turns, and it was a high pitch, so that's a tough one to bunt anyway. But there's some things you can do as a bunter that make a difference.
Which is interesting because watching Kentucky, when they sack, they typically show pretty early. Now you got to mess with Cole Hage.
And you know what's amazing? Again, 20 years ago, we didn't even practice much. You just were asked to do it, and you did it. So now, but nowadays, you'll see in batting practice, they're behind the screen. They might get 50 bunts in every player. So they've definitely worked on it.
1-0 here to Hage. Runners are going. The double steal will work. Burks takes third. Bell takes second.
That was the makeup for not getting the bunt down. So now they're in a similar position as if he got thrown out. And what a great job by Burks. We told you he's got some speed for a catcher. And with the right-handed hitter just distracting Carmichael enough not to be able to make an accurate throw to third base.
Top two teams in stolen bases in the SEC, but as you alluded to, coming into this matchup, into this series, Kentucky was 16 more than OU. Carmichael will give it a look, but it's well out of play. Now 112 for Kentucky in SEC play. OU at 103, and then it's everybody else.
Well, that's an overall number. There's no way they've stolen 112 within the league, but I love doing it within the league. I think the league number is like almost 60 stolen bases within the SEC because you're playing the best of the competition.
Hage up the middle. Kyle Branch will throw to first, but Kentucky is able to plate another run across. That's another 2K approach where Hage simply does the job.
And your three-hole hitter that could probably bench press the entire team, you know, that probably is looking to hit the ball out of the ballpark, just does his job, lets the ball travel in, gets jammed if he has to, gets another run across for the Cats, 5-2.
I don't want to call you old school, but for a guy that loves baseball played the right way, is this impressive to you to see Kentucky, the way they manufacture runs?
Yeah, and they can do just about anything. That's why Nick Mingione tells us, like, it's a whatever it takes offense, and he's right. You know, they banged out 90 home runs last year. They kind of got, you know, they get this label that they're small ball because I think strictly because the 3 or 4 will bunt.
Yeah.
That's why. But they can do just about anything to put pressure on you and hurt you, and we've seen that today. 5 runs, and we're not even out of the bottom of the second.
There's McCoy. McCoy out in front. He was hit by a pitch his first time up, came around to score.
It's a lot of stuff that Kentucky does that have been forgotten. Nobody really steals bases anymore. Nobody really bunts in the second inning. Kentucky will do it all.
0-2, this has been the issue for Cade Crossland so far today. Not getting to these two strike counts, but finishing from there. 95, so had some juice on that, but not a competitive pitch to James McCoy.
I love what Nick Mingione told us before the game, too. Like, it's creating a culture here at Kentucky. That's why you see all the kids out there before the game starts. They're trying to develop. These might be players for us. They might be fans for us. But we want them to love the University of Kentucky. And so we've got 100 kids running around before the game. You call it chaos, and it was. But that's what he does, and that's the kind of the focus. A lot what Skip Bertman did when he first got to LSU. You know, just focus on the little things that make a difference and bring the people out and enjoy the game. And again, there was no secret as to why Nick Mingione brought this program to Omaha for the first time last year.
2-2 to James McCoy. And McCoy is down on strikes. Crossland is able to get out of that threat. But Kentucky does this thing off. That would be intriguing.
Yeah, gosh, I think Mississippi State's 5-0 since they fired their head coach. But there's some examples, like Gary Henderson took Mississippi State to Omaha that year when they let their coach go. Alabama, a few years ago, Brad Bohannon leaves, and they went 13 of their next 19, made it to a super. So there's something to the team, whether it's they don't feel the pressure anymore of trying to save their head coach, or they play better under a new guy, whatever the case may be. Mississippi State is playing really well.
There's Easton Carmichael hitting in the 3 spot. Drove in the first run for the Sooners. Was back in the first. Single to left. Able to get it right under the glove of Tyler Bell, the star freshman shortstop. Nick McKay, 7-year veteran of college baseball. That's
7
the thing.
years.
You got to be old in this game now.
That was the old Cops from Arkansas a few years ago. 7 years.
Yep. Into the mid of Caius Gargett. Get you one, young man. And that was quick. Finally. 8-pitch inning. Kentucky up 5-2 over OU. Oh, they got back quick with a 4-run bottom of the first. And it's now a 5-2 advantage for a team that started 13-2. Since they've gone 13-18. 13 of the 20 losses have been by 3 runs or fewer. And Tyler Bell, the star shortstop, only a freshman, 2nd-round pick, has been leader defensively and offensively for this Kentucky team. Remarkable to think about the squad they had last season and basically bring back your catcher, your right fielder, and everybody else is gone offensively. Lose your rotation and your top 2 guys out of the bullpen, and you're still in position to make a regional.
We do live in an age where rebuild is kind of not even a thing anymore. Like with the transfer portal, and you move about the country without penalty, meaning you don't have to give up a year when you transfer. You can repower, and Kentucky's kind of done that, but it's hard to get that chemistry. If anybody can do it, Nick Mingione can do it. I mean, just the way he gets his teams to play. But yeah, they've had to do a lot of changes. Not to mention the injuries. Will Marcy broke his ankle in the fall. He was supposed to be one of their star outfielders. Nick Mingione said they've lost 7 guys that they depended on this year because of injury.
Ethan Hindle, the DH, broke his foot at practice in the Tennessee series as well. So it's been really consistent all season long and just working through that. That's why Coach Mingione told us he loves this team, and he says he respects the team. You don't hear a lot of coaches saying, I respect my team. It's usually the other way around, but it's the job that they've done battling adversity all season long as Gargett goes down on strikes.
Well, it needs to be both ways for sure. I certainly played for coaches you did not want to win for, if you're being honest. And then others that you did. I love Skip Berman, so I love playing for him. And Phil Roof, my AAA manager in the Twins organization, loved him. And so that goes both ways. But in order to play like you're capable, you got to really love who you're playing for. I think both sides, Skip Johnson for Oklahoma and Nick Mingione for Kentucky, they love playing for these guys.
Patrick Herrera had a triple his first time up. It was a misread by Sam Christensen in right field, and off the hop went over his head, allowed Herrera to motor his way to third base. 2 runs scored, and that gave Kentucky the lead at 3-2. Herrera also has been part of the bruised and battered Kentucky Wildcats. Has been going through the groin issue, so it's good to see him back in the starting 9 at DH for the Wildcats last night. That's in there for a strike. It's 2-1. And we asked Coach Mingione if there was one particular player that really illustrated just what this team has had to work through. He said it's not really a player, it's position on the field as this has popped up. Christensen nearly had a miscommunication there with Kyle Branch. But Mingione said it's the position of third base. They've now played 5 different players at third base. You don't do that. You don't have the depth to play 5 guys in a spot like that.
Yeah, I mean, it's a function of what you have to do, and that's been a spot that, Gargett's done a fine job. He only made the 2 errors in the short time that he's been over there, but sometimes you have to, pivot. And he told us, they've had so much success over the last couple of years because toward the end of the year, everybody was available. Yeah. Everybody's healthy. This year, they've they've been knocked back a little bit by people getting hurt.
There's Ryan Schwartz. Drove in a run in the first inning. The well-hit ball to left field. 297 on the season. Freshman out of Indian Trail, North Carolina. That's going to be another knock, and it's past Jason Walk. Extra bases galore. Schwartz, like it's the Derby, to third base. Will he be held there? Yes. And a triple for Ryan Schwartz, his second knock of the afternoon.
That's the second time we've seen Oklahoma let an outfielder let the ball get behind them. And you can't fault the effort by walking center field, but once you know you're not going to make that play, he tried to keep it in front of him and just couldn't. And a triple with 2 outs for the 7-spot Schwartz. Could have been inside the Parker.
It looked like for a moment Mingione was thinking about waving those hands a little bit more. Shift is on here with Griffin Cameron. A mild one with third base Dawson Willis playing in. And the pitch is in for strike one. Now, Kentucky's also a threat just to score like this with a runner on third base.
They've stolen home 3 times. And with a left-handed pitcher facing the other direction, this is where you get the good jump. Now, they won't do it necessarily unless the hitter gets in trouble, like 1-2, 0-2. But if you see this hitter get behind, you can be looking for that steal at home with 2 outs.
Something they practice, and something that Coach Mingione told us they practiced this week leading up to this matchup. There's the 1-1 from Crossland. And nearly got a piece of Schwartz, which is why you take that lead in foul territory.
Although the last day of the season, a lot of times, you know, when you were out of the playoffs or whatever the case may be, you'd get hit with the baseball in fair territory, so your boy would get the base hit. You know, you pull stuff like that. But you're right. In this situation, stay in foul territory. If you get hit, it doesn't matter.
Cameron, weak up the middle. Tough play for Branch. The throw on the run in time. What a play by Kyle Branch and Kentucky. We'll leave that runner there at third base. We'll talk to the head coach of the Wildcats, Nick Mingione, when we return from Lexington. TC on ESPN. Now time to join Nick Mingione, the head coach of the Kentucky Wildcats. Coach, we talked about the 2-strike approach before the start of this game. All those walks and the hit batters, those were all with 2 strikes. And then Cole comes up, 2-strike approach, fielder's choice to the right side, but does the job. Describe what you're seeing from your perspective in those situations.
Well, you know, part of our job as coaches is like to lead them as men and also to teach them to understand the game and do what the game demands. And in that moment with Cole, the infield was back. He had 2 strikes. You don't need a hit. The game is screaming, just hit me a ground ball in the middle of the field. Just do it. And he did it. And, you know, like me, I didn't do what the game demanded. Last inning, I should have sent Schwartz. The game was screaming, there's 2 outs, send them. And so they're doing better than me. So, yeah, just do what the game demands.
Coach Nick McKay settled down after the first inning. What have you seen from him?
Yeah, the key for him is strike one and just to stay on the attack. And he's got good stuff. And this is a really, really patient Oklahoma team that knows the strike zone as good as anybody in our league. So strike one, strike 2, and just keep going is going to be key for him, and just get our defense involved.
Coach, we really appreciate the time.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you, guys.
So I love that insight. Did want to send Schwartz for the inside the park opportunity.
The theory is with two outs is that if you hold him at third base, or like if there's a base hit with a guy on second and you hold him at third base with 2 outs, then you're depending on the next guy to get a base hit, you know, with 2 outs, which is not the high percentage deal. You'd rather send him, he might get thrown out, but it's more likely that you get a bad throw than you get somebody to do the job behind him. And so that's what he was saying. And probably took I didn't want to spend my question on that, but took a inside the park home run away from Schwartz, which would be memorable.
Make it up for him. Here's Jackson Willits. We heard Mingione talking about OU and just how tough of an out they are. They have the lowest chase rate in SEC play, meaning that they will not swing at pitches outside the strike zone. And this one by Willits is hit decently well out to center field, but the speed of Griffin Cameron, no match for it. And there's 1 down. So when you talk about discipline as a hitter and you hear about chase rate, not swinging at bad pitches, what does that tell you about the approach of a lineup?
Well, exactly the word you use, discipline. As a hitter, there's 2 things you can kind of key on. Where the pitcher's release point is, meaning you're picking up the ball earlier in the delivery to home plate.
Here's a bunt from Branch. Tough play by McKay, and he makes it. PFP, baby. That's what it's all about.
And it helps to have a cannon, on
Yeah.
that left side. Pick it up and fire it over to first base for the second out. He jumped off the mound, Nick McKay, and fielding your position is a big part of not giving up runs, and what a great job. Bare hand, too, and just rips it over to first for the second out.
Oh,
So as a hitter, you're reading where the pitcher's going to deliver it from, and then you're letting the ball travel longer into the zone, which means I've got a quicker swing. Like, I'm not cheating with my move to the baseball. If you've got a quick swing and you can pick up the delivery point and along those ways, then you're going to be more disciplined.
Yeah.
And for me, ultimately, also, it was kind of eliminating the pull, which means I'm trying to get the barrel out in front. I'm letting it travel in, looking up the middle the other way. Off-speed tempo is what I call it, which could be curveballs, changeups, could even be the fastball away. In any of those, you're going to be able to pop it up the middle the other way. But if I'm looking pull, I'm susceptible to all those.
so we see from the shift here that Kentucky obviously anticipating Sam Christensen to pull. And you look at the numbers, they back that up. 54% of the balls that play in the SEC are to the pull side, 6th highest rate. So he sees the numbers, he sees the shifts. For him, is this a sign that you need to work more?
You have to pitch to it. So an example, 0-2 right here is if I'm looking off speed and he pumps up 96 inside, I'm going to get jammed. I'm going to hit it to the left side. So he's got to throw some sort of off speed in order to get to me to pull the ball. You see what I'm saying? So you've got to pitch to this situation. Otherwise, you get burnt on the shift.
But for Christensen, is it telegraphing, hey, maybe see it a little deeper and work the left side?
Well, I would do it, but he's a pull hitter for a reason. He doesn't think that way. Ooh.
He got plunked there as McKay was cruising and retired 7 in a row before that.
And that's the example right there. He tries to come fastball in and just hits him, but he was trying to get a lot on that fastball, get more velocity than he's probably even capable, because he knows if he's looking off speed, he's going to jam him, and the ball is going to beat the shift and go to the left side.
So if you're a hitting coach and you got a guy that is a pull hitter, do you let him be and let him grip and rip, spin on something, or do you try to force the opposite field?
The other argument for the shift is it makes hitters think differently than they would otherwise. And
Okay.
so it makes a home run hitter think he has to bunt it and other things like that.
Bell with the charge. Quick release and got him in time. And that will wrap it up for the Wildcats. As Kentucky showing the stellar defense, especially with Nick McKay off the bump. So a lot on the line for both these programs. OU projected 2 seeds, still in the conversation to be one of the top 16 and host a regional. Kentucky has more on the line because they are part of the last 4 in. So right on that bubble line. As they will step up here in the bottom of the 4th, holding on to that 5-2 lead after winning game 1 by 1 run, courtesy of a 4-run 3rd inning. And after that, they held on. Had to get through a tough 9th inning, 2 runners on to secure that dub. Here's Devin Burks leading off. And a 4-pitch walk, not how you want to do it, Todd.
That was almost 4 straight arm side high, which is what Cade Crossland's been battling the entire game. He's just not able to get on top and pull down.
So last 4 in, K-State, Kentucky, Iowa, Xavier. First 4 out, the Vaqueros, Hilltoppers, Wolverines, and the Irish. What stands out the most when you look at that?
Some good teams. UT Rio Grande Valley at one point had a top 10 RPI. And, that Southland Conference has been tough. That UT RGV has been very good all year long. But that first 4 in, first 4 out is always interesting.
Here comes Skip Johnson. After Cade Crossland issued walk number 4. Season high for him. And it's been Gavin Jones, the man getting hot in the bullpen for OU. We'll see if this marks an end to the afternoon for Crossland at 79 pitches. About to face the top of the lineup, and Tyler Bell, the freshman.
Yeah, the 4 walks and the hit by pitch is just too much to be able to survive right now, to keep going. And so for Skip Johnson, he sees it. Not Cade Crossland's best outing, just, again, was not able to command the zone and keep the ball low and in the zone. Everything was high.
And Kentucky, one of those teams that will take advantage of everything that you put in front of them, and they have done that. So pitching change coming up. Looks like it will be Gavin Jones for the Sooners when we return. Kentucky baseball. Home field, Kentucky Proud Park. Haven't got all the bells and whistles. This is a gorgeous home for college baseball. And Kentucky is making most of this glorious weather in a game that would go a long way, sending them to the NCAA tournament. Got a 5-2 lead. OU has been forced to go to the bullpen. It's going to be Gavin Jones, the sophomore from White Oak, Texas, getting the nod.
91 to 94 on the fastball. He'll use that about 75% of the time. The rest is change-ups to right-handers, sliders to left. That slider gets some swing and misses about 45% of the time. Low walk total, only 5 in the 25 innings, so he's going to be around the plate, and that's what Oklahoma needs right now to hold the Cats at 5.
A lot of baseball still to play, just the bottom of the 4th. And you got to love the choreography from the Kentucky dugout. I mean, talk about a team that's on the same page. They were on the same page with the dance moves, offensive identity, what they do defensively. That's culture right there.
Well, it keeps you in the game. Isn't it amazing that dancing actually helps in a baseball game? But I just feel like, you keep them involved and, having fun, and that's ultimately the goal. Like I always told myself every day to try to have fun, but it's hard to do when you got all this pressure on you.
And it is a game of failure, as we hear all the time, as Bell take this one to foul territory, as Christensen ran out of room in right field. Were you one to dance a little bit?
No, sir.
So
No,
then
sir.
how did you make it fun for yourself? What was your mechanism?
Success. Like anything I did well, that was fun. Anything that I didn't, it wasn't as much fun. But they have way more fun now than we did. They hit the doubles now, and they make some
They got the
movement or
double
gesture.
selling.
Yeah, they got all that, and so it seems simple enough. But we just never thought to do it.
So the 10U travel team, did you allow them to do the double selling?
We did dance, with the little kids, man. We tried to. Now that we really tried to make it fun for them, because there's a high quit rate of kids playing this game, because it's a failure sport. You strike out 3 times in a day, you don't want to play anymore.
Man, if you just stick it out and keep grinding, it is the best sport there is.
Well, and that's my point, is it is a failure sport. If you understand that, then you know that the successes are so much more fun, because it just doesn't come around that often, and you got to fight through this thing, and at some point everybody is going to fail, and if you know that, it keeps you in the game longer.
You talk to these 2 head coaches, and they truly understand that, and they have great backgrounds that allow them to bring out those life lessons in the game of baseball.
Well,
So for Mingione, I made the comment to him, it's like talking to Augie Garrido again. And then for Skip Johnson, he coached under Augie and learned a lot from Ken Ravizza, who was, before his passing, one of the best minds in terms of the mental side of the game of baseball.
and Skip Johnson knows perfection. He's had 10, he's told us, 300 games in bowling. And he's more proud of the 2 800s he threw in 3 games of the bowling. Now, I don't know all the bowling lingo, but talking to Skip about that, and then translating that to his pitchers, about dealing with pressure, about loosening your grip, certain other things that he can carry over to his pitching staff from what he did all his years of bowling.
That's in, and it's full count. Gavin Jones to Tyler Bell. It was his dad that raised him bowling. And until his father's death in 2011, every time that Skip would bowl a 300, made sure to call his pops. And Dad was always proud. And this is hit to Willis. Willis to second, and there's a double play. That's how you get it done. A 5-4-3 variety.
That was a great job right there by Willis at third base. How about these rings? We've got them right in front of us right here. Skip Johnson, one is an 800 bowling day, and the next one's a 300 game. And again, he had 10 of those. Pretty incredible. I love to bowl, but I'm not quite at that level. But once a week, we get out there and get after it. But man, you start talking to him about hunting or bowling, and he lights up.
And he's great at both of those.
Great at both. That's right. And baseball. He's
Yeah,
multi-talented.
let's not
Yeah.
forget about that aspect. Also learn how to deal with a little pressure and to literally bet on yourself. His dad would pay for his games and then also give him $5 and say, hey, go place a bet on yourself. And so there would be money riding on some of these games that Skip Johnson himself had laid down. And the message was, believe in yourself.
I mean, he uses all this lingo like ringing the 10 pin, and like the lane is slick except for one little spot, and he knew where that spot was, and so he'd aim at it. So when it hit that dry spot, it would catch. You know, I mean, it's fun talking bowling with that man right there, Skip Johnson.
Give me a pitcher and some bumpers, and I'm having a good time.
That's right.
Here's Willits, and that will take care of Luke Lawrence. So Kevin Jones does his job out of the bullpen. We'll talk to Skip coming up next. Oklahoma trying to come back from a 3-run deficit here in the top of the 5th inning. Now time to catch up with the Sooner skipper, Skip Johnson. Hey, Coach, with Cade Crossland, was doing a good job getting into those 2-strike accounts, but then was not able to get out of it. What was happening in those situations?
Just trying to make better pitches. I mean, he's trying to make them swing and miss instead of let them hit it, and he usually doesn't walk that many guys. And so, it's just we lost some momentum in the first inning on the tag up and gave the momentum to them, and that's what happens in this league. If you lose the momentum, you walk a guy, you give free bases, and all of a sudden this is what happens.
Skip, you did pin 2 on him in the first. Should have been 3, like you just mentioned. Nick McKay's been good since then. What's it going to take to get to him?
Just trying to separate balls from strikes and get good pitches to hit and try to get some momentum back.
Skip, we appreciate the time as always.
Thank you, guys.
Lifted here
That's
to right field,
carries.
going back and up and over, gone. Scott Mudler, that will make Skip Johnson a happy man. And we have seen 3 home runs in this series, all of them barely getting out, going that direction.
You get the ball high in the air to the right side with some backspin on it, and it carries to right field. This ballpark kind of plays like 2 different ballparks. It's a graveyard to center field. Like, it is almost impossible to get it out. But to right field, if you get the ball up in the air, it just travels. And like I said, multiple home runs that way over the last 2 nights.
Willis with a bunt. McKay says, nuh-uh, not happening on my watch. And that fantastic play on Kyle Branch last inning and does it again.
Bunt after a home run. I mean, that's trying to, when the pitcher's thinking about all this other stuff and what he did wrong, you can kind of catch him by surprise. I know that's what Dawson Willis was trying to do, but again, for these little guys that I always used to tell them, it's you either bunt it perfect or foul. Like, don't give the pitcher a chance to make a play. If you bunt it foul, fine, it's a strike, and let's go back to work. But, don't give him a chance.
Here's Jason Walk back to the leadoff spot and into the mid. Ron Schwartz out and right. Here is the home run that just got over the right field fence. Schwartz had a look at it. Oh, may have got the tip of his glove.
And he kind of glided from where he started all the way to the fence. That showed you how high that ball was, but also how much it carried. And just barely had a shot. If he timed that out right, it could have robbed him. But Oklahoma gets within 2, and now we've got a little offensive timeout just because of the 2 quick outs. Give their pitcher a little more time in the dugout.
So conversation with Trey Campbell. 0 for 1 with a walk. Hit a ball well to right field, caught on the line, and his last trip up. Would you categorize this park as more of a pitcher-friendly park in terms of the other ones in the SEC?
It's both. Like I was just saying, the sides, it'll carry, but dead center, it just doesn't. And I think it's fair enough, especially on a day like today, But what people don't realize within the SEC, and And in a lot of places, it doesn't get warm until June. In a lot of places, like it was cold here last night.
Yeah.
We're in Baton Rouge, it's hot and ready to go, balls flying, you know, that type of thing. Or in Fayetteville or in Knoxville, that type of spot. Although Knoxville, you know, can be cold at times too. So the weather doesn't really change as much as you would like this time of year. You'd think it'd be spring and ready to go, and the thin air would allow the ball to carry, but it's cold in a lot of places in the SEC even now.
71 degrees here in Kentucky Proud Park. And a gorgeous day for baseball. There's a strikeout, McKay, number 3. Gets Gamble looking. Oklahoma does get another run with Scott Mudler going deep to right field, but quick work after that to limit the damage. We're in Lexington, Kentucky, home of the Kentucky Wildcats. Lowell Galindo here with Todd Walker. OU just got one back with the home run from Mudler. 2-run game with Kentucky holding the lead. We go to the bottom of the 5th. Some key dates you need to know. Conference tournaments starting up on the 19th. Regionals on the 30th. We go to the Supers on the 6th of June, and then the CWS in Omaha, June 13th.
And the conference tournament, obviously, can't do anything about. That's in Hoover, and it's been there for years. But the regional and the super regionals, what everybody's fighting for to try to host at home. Because for some of these teams, if you get to host as a top 8 national seed, a super regional, meaning you have to win the regional first, but you get host throughout, that is a massive deal to these teams who play so much better at home than they do on the road, getting to the College World Series.
Cole Hage, first pitch swing against Gavin Jones. Regional round, it will be 16 regional sites, 4 teams at each of those sites. Winners will then move on for a 2-team super regional with 8 sites, and the winners of those supers moving on to Omaha. Laced, but a good adjustment by Gamble out in left field. That is a tough read, tough catch to make, and Gamble did it like a champ.
It shows you kind of the unfairness of baseball. Like
Yeah.
Cole Hage ripped that ball. So number one, it's right at him. You don't get the hit. And I would say that ball was hit harder than Mudler's last inning that went out of the ballpark. That ball was hit right on the screws, but right to the left fielder, Gamble.
Let's play on the run. That will pick up a pitcher's confidence like Gavin Jones. Here's James McCoy. Last time up, went down as a strikeout victim against Cade Crossland.
One of the few dual threats we have in college baseball.
Yeah.
Pitches also.
Has not pitched quite as much since he's been needed more in the lineup and defensively now with the injuries that Kentucky has gone through. He played a mean first base last night. Something probably is not talked enough about when you have an elite defensive first baseman, what it does for the rest of an infield.
Saves a lot of errors,
Yeah.
for sure. And this turf, you know, it was much, you're not going to catch a seam and a bad hop on this turf because it gives, you know, and so it's less difficult. I don't ever like to use the word easy in baseball, but it's less difficult to play defense on this type of turf, which is becoming more and more common throughout the country.
One-two count here to James McCoy. And McCoy fouls that one off, staying alive. 1 home run on the season. Should have 2, but got robbed in Game 3 in Starkville. A tip your cap moment for James McCoy. That's off his foot,
Is that the record?
and that has tied the record. Hit by pitch, number 131. What are we at now?
Right in the foot. Back foot, and he just didn't move. And again, the difference is not that they're leaning over the plate. They're just, he actually still looked like he almost tried to play soccer with it. But it's always been incredible to me, the hit by pitch, because it's not that Kentucky's doing anything crazy, but they're going to sit in and take it. And it is an abnormal amount of hit by pitches by this Kentucky offense.
So 131 on the season puts them 1 from tying the record. So closing in so quickly. And so many of those hit by pitches are with 2 outs. And it's something that catches the attention of SEC coaches. Talk to enough of them, and won't name names, but there are plenty of coaches in this conference where that gets under your skin. And there it is. Now it's a record, and back-to-back as Gargett wears one.
I think there's an element of it that if you are closer to the plate, or maybe your your elbows are leaning over a little bit more, that the pitcher wants to establish the inside corner, and so they're going to throw it. And when the pitcher tries to throw inside to a hitter, I think they try to get a little more behind it, try to throw it a little harder, and that's what ends up being the hit by pitches, and you just lean into it. Now, you're not allowed to lean into the baseball, but they don't move, and wow.
Yeah, or you can turn, but just make sure you're not bailing when you turn.
But they lead the league every year, so
Yeah.
it's like a talent, is it? I mean, they practice it, like you mentioned. They get
intentional.
wiffle balls, and it's intentional. That's right.
And anytime you have something that can get into the head of your opponent, that's a win before you even step on the field. They know that's Kentucky's brand of baseball. You have to be aware of Kentucky.
And that's what I was trying to say. Like, it's almost like they try to take it away from you. Like, we're going to be kind of closer to the plate than we would otherwise, so I'm going to throw that fastball in there and get you off the plate, and you end up hitting them.
It's like, go for it. You'll help us if you do. And was that the pitch clock violation? Let's see. We're correcting the count. There was some dancing going on by McCoy over there at second base. Trying to get in the head of Gavin Jones. Herrera trying to cash in. Huge secondary lead by McCoy over at second base. That will catch your attention. And here comes Carmichael to chat. Skip Johnson on his way out as well. Reed Hensley is getting hot for Oklahoma in the bullpen.
Well, it's either a pitching change or he's trying to remind him, look, because I think Gargett could have taken third base right there. He jumped off as Jones turned toward home plate, and so Skip would tell him, look, you got to hold that runner at second a little closer. Mix your timing up. Don't let him get a great jump. And that's probably what that is, because the last pitch he delivered, Gargett got off enough to steal. He just didn't do it.
Story of this game, though, the free passes. OU has issued too many of them.
And another part of that, it's a 2-0 count. Now it's a predictable fastball count, and you want to throw the hitter's timing off a little bit.
Herrera with a 2-run triple in the first inning to give Kentucky the lead. They have not looked back. Inside, and nearly clipped Herrera there. Herrera looks at strike one, and it's now 3-1.
And the thought process here is, if you take 3-1, you're going to get the same pitch 3-2 because there's nowhere to put him. If first base were open, I'd go after the 3-1. But 3-1, first and second, the next two pitches have to be the same pitch. So takes out the element of like trying to hit a ball with a little too much aggressiveness on a 3-1 count and getting yourself out. Go ahead and take strike two. Now it's 3-2, and it's got to be a fastball. And just trust yourself. You're not going to wave at anything off speed. But that would be pretty gutsy of the pitcher to throw an off speed first and second with one out.
You got Schwartz coming up after this, who's been hitting the ball very well. He's got 2 barrels on the afternoon so far, and here's a timeout and a pitch clock violation.
So an automatic ball.
Wow.
And you saw Carmichael trying to get him to step off and do something. The clock was ticking. couldn't get him to do it, and now they move the runners up with the walk to Patrick Herrera. The free passes so far for Oklahoma in this game has been too much.
Once again, that's just what Kentucky does. They get under your skin, they get in your head, and this is going to do it for Gavin Jones and Skip Johnson making his second visit. So this will force his hand. New pitcher for OU when we return to Kentucky Proud Park here in Lexington. Had an opportunity to do some math. It's been 4 hit by pitches drawn by the Kentucky lineup in this game. So that makes it 133 on the season. So that is a new Kentucky program record, and they take pride in this number, Todd Walker.
It's just amazing, but they do it every year. I mean, look at the hit by pitches every year. They do practice it, but the pitcher has a part in it. I mean, you got to hit them. You know, I just never understood as a hitter, how do I draw a bunch of getting hit, which I don't want to do anyway. But they do it every year for Kentucky, and this year it's a record.
Oh, it was like Skip Johnson was telling us in our pregame chat, when you focus on what could happen, that usually ends up happening. So the mentality that knowing Kentucky is going to get up on the line, they're going to crowd the plate a little bit, hold their ground. You think about that too much.
But not obnoxiously. Like, they don't crowd
No,
the
I'm
plate
with
obnoxiously. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
you would think if they did, well, now you are getting hit by pitches.
Yeah.
But it's up to Reed Hensley now to see what he can do. 11 walks in the 25 innings. That's not too bad. He's been pretty good for them in his 19th appearance now. And he's out there to try to put out the fire. Wow, 1 out, bases loaded for Kentucky, already up by 2.
And facing Ryan Schwartz, who is on a heater right now, had a single to left field on a ball he ripped in the first inning to drive in a run, and then a triple his last time up on a ball that he squared to center field. Jason Walk was caught in no man's land. First pitch, strike. Sight for sore eyes for Oklahoma. Schwartz with the bases loaded, 1 for 1 this season. Kentucky as a team, 397. That is ridiculous. Outside, and it's 1-1. Wildcats trying to break this thing open. Down, and Easton Carmichael keeps it in front of him.
Reed Hensley's almost 80% four-seam cutter combo, on which basically the fastball coming at you at 88, anywhere from 88 to 93, can manipulate the speeds a little bit, and then he'll drop that curve ball. So predominantly fastball curve from Reed.
Boy, he was thinking about wearing that one. It's 3-1.
You just want to, as a hitter, you want to make sure it's up. You don't want to beat it in the ground and let them out off the hook by hitting it into a double play. Make sure it's up, try to drive in the outfield.
Nailed, and look out. James McCoy
He was
went
on all
Matrix
fours.
to get out of the way of that.
Oh, this is going to be a great shot. Yikes. He fell into the field of play.
You could feel it, you could hear it. Jeez.
That's your natural reaction at the plate if you get a ball thrown at you. So that's why you have to practice it, right? I mean, it's the reaction without thinking about it. If you're conscious of it, it makes a difference. But that's what you normally do at the plate.
Full count here. Big pitch for Reed Hensley. Won't win this one over the glove of Willis. 1 run comes around. Here comes Gargett. How about a third? Herrera scores from first. Schwartz cashes in, driving in 3. No one is barreling more baseballs today than Ryan Schwartz.
Have a day, kid. A home run away from the cycle, the double with the bases loaded in the bottom of the lineup. Ryan Schwartz, single in the first, triple back in the third, and now a bases clearing double extends the Cats' lead here in the fifth.
And how was this all set up? Just like it was back in the first inning, the free passes. 2 hit batters and a walk. Hensley comes in, got to a full count. Ron Schwartz with a grip and rip. Here's Griffin Cameron. He looks at a first pitch strike. A couple of putouts for him by Branch over at second base. And how about a third? That does move up Schwartz to third base for Devin Burks.
Yeah, but there's no advantage to getting over to third base with 2 outs. And so as a hitter, obviously you're trying to get a base hit to drive him in. Devin Burks, this has been one of the biggest problems for Oklahoma. Not that Devin Burks is your prototypical 9-hole hitter, but they've walked him twice. If you told me in a game we're going to walk the 9-hole hitter more than once,
yeah, there's problems
there's
there,
going to be some big problems. You roll the lineup over to your better hitters. But Devin Burks has hit 3 and 4 for this Wildcat lineup over the years, so he can hit just about in any spot. We've talked about his speed, and he's basically working right now as a second leadoff hitter out of the 9 spot.
And when it comes to the metrics, he's got the best exit data, ball off the bat, 23 balls put in play at 100 plus this season. And so that is a team best, 15th best in the SEC. So he has the ability to get the barrel out and do some damage. Hensley will try to stop the bleeding here. 0-2 and 2 outs. That's down. Burke spits on it, and it's 1-2. Bounced it. Not competitive, not close.
Man,
in new baseball.
You really got to trust your catcher to even throw a pitch like that. Nice job by Carmichael, just keeping it in front, saving another run. Because if you don't trust your catcher to keep it in front of him, you can't throw that pitch, and you're basically down to a fastball.
Burks fouls it back. A glance to the dugout. Sign that I got you. 2-strike approach has been key for Kentucky so far today. Trying to close in on winning this key SEC series. And Burks, after a couple of walks, goes down looking. But Ryan Schwartz does the damage. His 3rd hit of the day makes it a 5-run lead. UK. Mo Galindo here with Todd Walker. Great to be with you from Lexington, Kentucky. Oklahoma struck first, planting 2 runs in the top of the 1st inning, but Kentucky came right back, 4 in the bottom of the frame. 9 free passes allowed. That's been the bugaboo for the Sooners. Ron Schwartz, meanwhile, needs a home run for the cycle, and Nick McKay thought he settled down after that 1st inning.
Gave up the 2. We thought it was 3. And they got the guy leaving early from third base back in the 1st inning. And since then, he has shut down this Oklahoma offense outside of the home run that Mudler hit last inning to lead off.
That overturned call, the runner leaving early from third base, ended up being a sneaky momentum changer in this game as Carmichael places it in left field for his 2nd knock of the afternoon.
Yeah, and we heard Skip Johnson talking about the momentum, which is a big deal, especially these, 18, 19-year-old kids. I mean, that's why you'll see a lot of college baseball programs bunt in the 1st inning. Just getting the lead makes them feel better about themselves. And so momentum is a big deal in college baseball, and that's what Skip was talking about.
McKay with 3 strikeouts and 1 walk. Off the mark there on his initial offering to Jackson Willits. And a quick toss to first base, checking on Carmichael. Was now 4 for 8 in the series. One of the top bats in the SEC. Fouled out of play, right side.
It's not a situation where you really are going to try to steal. You're down by 5, so it really becomes a station-to-station situation for Oklahoma, especially when you got your 4, 5, 6 coming up.
Willits showing the patient approach, as he typically does. Hardly ever swings at the first pitch. And sees more than 4 pitches per plate appearance in SEC play. One of the higher marks in the conference. It's a guy that knows how to hit. His dad, Reggie Willits, is the associate head coach and hitting coach for Skip Johnson. He's been around the game a long time. You understand the art of hitting. But also a big difference in understanding and then putting it into practice, which Willits has done at a high level. And OU's first season in the SEC.
Yeah, Reggie Willits, the dad, over in that dugout, worked in the Yankees organization for a while. Now he's back under Skip Johnson at Oklahoma. And a lot of table talk about baseball in general, what an advantage it would be for any kid, but for Jackson, who is a player, one of the better shortstops we have in the country.
And hit well. Schwartz is there, makes the play. Carmichael retreats to first. It's going to bring up Kyle Branch.
Oklahoma has given away a lot, but they've had a lot taken as well. A couple line drives back in the 3rd. That ball was hit right on the screws to right field, and a lot of baseball depends on luck where it lands, and Oklahoma has not had much of it today.
It's been one of those series for Oklahoma. They look good taking the series against Ole Miss. Started good against Georgia, taking that first game. So the Bulldogs came storming back. And that's down to Kyle Branch. Branch tried to lay down a bunt his last time up, but McKay made the play of the game defensively, hopping off the mound to barehanded and fire to first.
And to my point, like, Oklahoma's only struck out 3 times in this game, so they put the ball in play. And again, they had an opportunity to have a big inning in the first. They did pin 2 on them, but they've done their job, and so is that man, Nick McKay. 81 pitches to this point through 6. 5 1/3 for Nick McKay, who, again, we didn't know if he'd last the first inning.
Yeah.
Here he is in the top of the 6th.
That's up, and it's 3-0.
But again, there's something about, and this is why coaches love the transfer portal, is getting guys with experience. And if you've been in college for 7 years, you've learned a few things. Nick McKay.
That's in, and Branch is able to draw the walk. The second issued by Nick McKay today. And also, he's used to playing in some less than ideal conditions. I mean, I don't know the last time that you were in Brookings, South Dakota.
It's been a minute.
Yeah. Well, it's not exactly like a baseball haven. That's where he was at South Dakota State.
For 5 years. This is his first year in Kentucky, and wow.
Jackrabbit.
Been around. Dan Roselle. All those great East Carolina pitching staffs that he was over, and now over here at Kentucky under Nick Mingione. Again, Kentucky lost their entire rotation from last year.
Basically everybody.
Basically everybody. And so a pitching coach's job is to manage personalities along with everything else that goes into the technical part of it. And I just think these pitching coaches, with the turnover rate in college baseball, just have a very difficult job. They're having to learn new people all the time. And here's what Kentucky's had to deal with since last year when they made it to Omaha.
And then also lost Oliver Boone, so he was going to be a key piece to the staff.
Chase Alderman,
Yep.
supposed to be their closer.
And Jackson Jelkin, who could have been their number one. We've seen him coaching first base this year a lot because of an injury he suffered, out for the season. Here's Sam Christensen. Last time up, he wore one. OU still has time to start putting together some knocks in situations like this. 2 on, 1 out for an OU offense scoring just under 7 runs a game in SEC play. Actually only trails Arkansas and Georgia. So it's not like the power numbers overwhelm you. 30 home runs coming into the series in SEC plays, only 11th, but they find a way to separate balls and strikes, as Skip Johnson likes to say, and just be a pest offensively. That's strike 2 to Christensen. A 390 OBP coming into the series. Trails only Arkansas in SEC play. And they do not swing at bad pitches. Two from Nick McKay, 7-year veteran. Count runs full. Kentucky does have an arm ready to go in the bullpen. 88 pitches now for Nick McKay. That will help the confidence as Christensen is down swinging. Strikeout number 4 for McKay.
Only 4 for McKay, but he's been efficient. Nice changeup, just drops below the barrel of the bat on a 3-2 count when the hitter's looking dead red fastball and trying to put a charge into it. That's when the changeup works and just right up over the top. Man, again, I just think about the veteran mentality for Nick McKay, who's been pitching a long time in college baseball, and his ability to get through the first and then be dominant from that point forward.
It does not seem to be phased at all by being on the big stage of the SEC. Feels very comfortable on the bump. Get to see a young arm tomorrow in Ben Cleaver for Kentucky. Some upside in that frame. A Slim Reaper, as he's known. OU will come back, and they will throw Kyson's brother, Malachi Witherspoon, who has an electric arm. Catch tomorrow's game on SEC Network. Kentucky trying to make it so we're talking about a potential sweep. Got game 1, holding on for the 1-run win. Now a 3-0 count from McKay to Hamlin. In there for a strike. On pitch 93. Looking, full count.
Runners will be moving. Ball in the gap, scores them both. And Oklahoma right now desperately needs a big hit with 2 outs.
Could be the last pitch of the game for Nick McKay. Trying to end with a statement. He has a chopper to the left side. Again, fields it in foul territory. Back to the dugout, guys. Keeping the charts, need to pay attention. Got a little surprise, a little wake-up call from Gargett.
Nick McKay using that pitch count. 3 full counts in this inning alone. Does have the walk. Led off with a base hit by Carmichael. 1 pitch away from shutting him down in this inning.
Upstairs, bases loaded. Off the second walk this inning. Only the 3rd of the game for McKay. So Scott Mudler, last time he stepped up, took a jet stream to right field and barely got it over the glove of Ryan Schwartz for the solo home run.
So that is why that'll be it for Nick McKay. Not going to let him face him twice.
Well, McKay has put Kentucky in position to get the series win. Got to hold on now like they did a night ago. We'll see who the new pitcher is. As Coach Mingione goes to get his guy, Nick McKay. Evan Byers is the new pitcher for Kentucky. That's the man he's got to lead off against. Scott Mudler, who last time up did this. Got it up, got it into the jet stream to right field, and barely got out for the home run.
Evan Byers working with 2 outs and a 5-run lead. Not overpowering. Tops out about 87, 88 miles an hour on the fastball. He does have 14 strikeouts in the 14 innings. Dominates the left-handers. That's why he's up there against Scott Mudler. Lefty's only hitting 100 off of him. Not so much the righties. Righties banging him around for a 406, but Evan Byers being asked to get Mudler out here with 2 outs. Lefty on lefty.
Byers allowed a home run in his first at-bat. The first batter he faced in the series against Mississippi State. So we'll try to be locked in here from the jump against Mudler. It was a strikeout and that home run. Huge opportunity here for Oklahoma. Coming off the series win against Ole Miss, projected 2 seed in the tournament. Still in the conversation to be a top 16. A little funk, slow it down. Evan Byers, get it over the plate. Strike 1.
Yeah, it's tough. You really have to sit back and let him release the ball before you even make a decision or a move.
Left side just foul. So what makes it so difficult for a lefty against him?
Most everything he throws is moving away from the barrel. That's number 1. So again, when I talked about you can't pull it, you really have to look the other way. And he got jammed right there, but you see kind of the approach of looking up the middle, letting the ball travel into the zone. And then Byers throws from that 3/4 angle. So when he lets the ball go, it's actually behind your back and then comes across the zone, and you've got to stay with it the entire way.
Outside, and it's 1-2.
And this is where you look off speed tempo, just that little spinner, the frisbee in there, and stay back and on it.
Byers, a little low. No stranger to these situations, big moments in the SEC. Entered this series with 14 appearances in SEC play, tied for the most of the conference. This is number 15. 2-2, hit well, right field, it's down, fair. Oklahoma back in this thing. Carmichael scores. Branch does as well. Hamblin will check up at third base. And even though that lefty-lefty matchup favored the man on the bump, it is Scott Mudler coming through in his 2nd straight AB.
Evan Byers has only given up 2 hits to left-handers all year. And when you know it's coming, it makes it a little less difficult. And the pitching sequence after the fastball has to be that spinner back over the zone. Scott Mudler knew that out of the 8-hole, sat back and waited on it and ripped it to right field. Gives Oklahoma new life here in the 6th.
Yeah, certainly got a game now. 8-5 lead for Kentucky. So we'll bring out the head guy. Looks like there's going to be another change. As Niall Adcock is ready to go for Kentucky. And the call is made. So Evan Byers is not able to get Butler out of that bases loaded situation. Butler won the matchup, and it's a 3-run game. The top 25 in the D1 baseball poll is SEC heavy. We're seeing number 17, Oklahoma, come back to life when it's been really a sluggish afternoon for Skip Johnson and his team. But Scott Mudler just drove in a couple, and OU is now cooking. A series that means a lot for them in terms of having a chance to host a regional. For Kentucky, it's a series that means a lot in terms of the Wildcats just getting into a regional. Now they turn it over to Niall Adcock.
This might be a single hitter for Niall Adcock as well. Only the 6 walks on the year with 15 innings. Pretty good. He's good against right-handed hitters. Mostly off speed. Curveball and changeup, about 70% of what he throws. The other 30% is the fastball. So he's going to be throwing some kitchen sink at you right here, and his job is to get the 9-spot right-hand hitter Dawson Willis out.
Well, he needs to look better than he did in Starkville, quite honestly. Got hit hard, took a liner off the shin against Mississippi State, had 2 wild pitches, didn't even make it out of the inning following Nate Harris in game 1 of that doubleheader. Dawson Willis, the 9-hole hitter, stands in. 2 runners on, 2 outs. And that's some of the control that I was alluding to as Devin Burks working hard for his guy, keeps it in front.
That was impressive. I mean, he didn't do the textbook block, but he made it. He made the play.
Hamlin on third, Mudler on second. Catches it, and it's 1-1.
Slider has a high whiff rate, about 50%. And so you'll see him use a ton of that against the right-handed Willis.
0 for 2 so far today in game 2. Hit well center field. Griffin Cameron trailing back makes the catch on the retreat. Nice play for Griffin Cameron. And OU was about to play 2 more if it weren't for the center fielder. They do add, and it's now a 3-run game. Squeeze play. It is a must-see this time of year. Get into conference tournament, regional play, supers, and then Omaha.
You know what I love about squeeze play? You
What
got
is that?
Chris Burke and Mike Rooney, who
Polar
I look forward to
opposites.
Omaha, polar opposite, who I look forward to Omaha because I get to sit at the lunch table or whatever and talk baseball with these guys who
Yeah.
are so knowledgeable, you know. So that gives everybody an opportunity to do the same thing, the squeeze play. I mean, these 2 guys really know baseball, and the lingo that Mike Rooney uses is like different than anybody else.
He's from a different planet. They play a lot of baseball on that planet. But it's just one of the most fun-loving, genuinely great human beings that you will ever meet.
He seems like he knows everything about everything. So both those guys really great on that stage of squeeze play.
Tyler Bell leading off. He's got an 11-game hit streak on the line, 0 for 2 today. That hit streak coinciding with him moving into the leadoff spot. He's looked mighty comfortable there. 1-2 count here from Reed Hensley. OU in the shift. Just hit through it, why don't you? Will it hang up? And it does. Christensen makes the catch right on the tip of that warning track. So we start in Omaha on the 13th of June. Got 8 teams divided into 2 pools. Double elimination format. And then the winner of each of those pools moves on the championship series, where it's a best 2 out of 3.
Yeah, that's for the College World Series in Omaha. We had the same format back in 1993, but when we played the final, it was 1 game on a Saturday on CBS at noon. The great Mike Patrick, who just passed away,
Legend.
he did that game, and so when I hear his voice now more than, you know, back then, it brings me back, man. Just really cool atmosphere in Omaha during that time of year.
It's just one of the best scenes. You know, a lot of times you hear about, you got to do this, got to check this out, and go, and it doesn't live up to the hype and the expectations. Omaha does that and then some. If
I
you
would
love
say-
baseball, that's the place.
I would say the same about Hoover, too. And you know, what's cool about Hoover, it's not overly packed. So you can come sit down in the middle of the whole stadium, grab some lunch. they got 4 baseball games going on Tuesday and on Wednesday in a couple weeks. So that tournament, yeah, in Omaha is just special.
There's Luke Lawrence trying to get these Wildcats back to Omaha, as Kentucky ended up there for the first time last season. And Lawrence, transfer from Illinois State, is aboard.
Is that 10 for Oklahoma?
10
Yeah,
now.
6 walks and 4 hit by pitch. You don't win. You can't win when you got a good hitting team like Kentucky and you also gift them first base. And this is abnormal for Skip Johnson, Oklahoma pitching staff, but and you tend to see it more on the road than you do at home for whatever reason. I don't think they're overly nervous or anxious out there. It's just a different atmosphere.
Well, it's just baseball, as you know. Sometimes you just get these fluky series, as that's another violation of the pitch clock. So that will be a ball. But you look at Kentucky and the way they looked at Mississippi State. That's not Kentucky baseball. And Coach almost laughed it off, saying, you know, we were pretty bad in moments in game 1, battled back, had some good ABs in game 3, but ultimately didn't go our way, and we'll recover and respond from that.
Well, I think there might have been moments, but overall he did like the way his team played. And back to what we talked about, they've lost 8 one-run or 2-run games within the SEC, meaning that the Wildcats are in every game they play. They fight, you know, and I think every skipper would say that about their club, but they fought during that series. You know, a lot of it's when you catch a team in the schedule too. Like you catch Mississippi State now is much different than if you caught them in the first couple weeks of the season. Same
Absolutely.
with Florida. You know, these teams that were struggling early that now are red hot. A&M, a third team, and I think it's a fight between Kentucky, Texas A&M, Florida, and Mississippi State to get into the field of 64. I say that, you know, because that. If 3 of the 4 get in, that's 13 schools of the SEC.
So you start comparing resumes, and not to pick on Mizzou, but it's something you have to do. Not everybody is playing everybody. So Kentucky does not have Missouri on the schedule, a team that was winless up until last night when they came back to beat Texas A&M. That's going to be somewhat of a red flag on A&M's resume, as Hage takes this one to left field, but caught on the line.
Yeah, so what I'm saying is I think 10 teams in the SEC are locks to get in the field of 64. Then you got those 4 that I just mentioned that are on the bubble, and that's why these games are so important for Kentucky, you know, to start stacking those wins with 5 games left.
Here's James McCoy. It's been hit twice by this OU staff. And Skip Johnson will come out. Has all the arms up and getting ready for OU.
Well, Skip's getting his cardio in today, for sure.
And there is a pitching change as Jaden Barfield will check in for Boomer Sooner, trying to get out of this bottom of the 6th. If you're not a fan of the SEC, just embrace it, get used to it, because it's going to be SEC heavy in the field of 64. On the left side of the screen, all projected 1 seeds. Quite remarkable. Texas, Arkansas, LSU, Georgia, Auburn, Vandy, and Tennessee. And the intrigue really comes with, like you were saying, A&M, Florida, Mississippi State, Kentucky, all projected to be in as 3 seeds. What's also amazing about this list, Todd, the number of teams that have been number 1, and then the number of teams that have knocked that team from the spot of number 1 throughout the course of the year.
Yeah, it lists 14 teams of the 16 in the SEC. Remember, it was a record for the SEC last year, minus Texas and Oklahoma, to get 11 teams in to the field of 64. I'd be surprised if they let all 14 in the way it looks right there. I still think those last 4, A&M, Florida, Mississippi State, Kentucky, are fighting for 3 spots. But we'll see how it plays out. Again, they've a lot of respect for this conference, and so maybe that works out that way because it is the SEC.
Jaden Barfield is the new pitcher. He'll face James McCoy with Luke Lawrence on via the walkover at first base. Freshman from Pearland, Texas.
Facing two switch hitters, McCoy and Gargett put him on the right side. Very good against the left-handed hitters, 130-point difference.
And that is why you shift, because there was a huge hole on the right side. But that went straight to Kyle Brantz to get out of it. So one pitch and done right there for Jaden Barfield. You're watching the SEC on ESPN. OU jumped out with an early 2-0 lead. Kentucky came right back with the fourth spot in the bottom of the first inning. Added 3 more in the 5th. OU tacked on 2, and we got a game, 8-5. So Kentucky will turn it over to Ethan Walker, making his 12th appearance out of the bullpen on this season.
Low 90s fastball. Better, actually, against left-handed pitching. Of course, the lefty-lefty matchup. It's 45% whiff rate on that change that he'll drop on those right-handers. For Ethan Walker, had a good season.
And he'll come in for the top of the lineup for OU, Jason Walk. Walk led off with a single to right, just like he led off game number 1 of this series. Struck out, hit a ball well to right field that was caught. And Jason Walk, as exciting as any player in college baseball, had 2 triples in 1 game in Oxford, or in Norman against the folks from Oxford, Ole Miss. And this is into the gap, but on a beat is Ryan Schwartz.
Man, Oklahoma has really squared up some balls that have been caught today.
Yeah.
Big difference in this game, only down by 3. Again, they only have the 4 or 5 strikeouts, whatever it is, and they have sprayed the ball around the field and just have little to show for it.
And Walk has hit 3 balls very hard. It's 1 for 4. Here's Gamble. He's played a good defensive left field. Looks at strike number 1. First time up, walked. Lined out to right. Struck out looking. Way out, and it's 1-1. Two, 1. Swinging through, and it's 2-2. Gamble with an 8.4% chase rate in SEC play. That's the best in the conference coming into this series. Next closest is Rylan Galvan from Texas at 13%.
Yeah, best meaning low, like
Yep.
not very often.
He's not going to
He
flinch
knows the zone, yeah.
unless you're putting it in the zone.
And now this is a situation lefty on lefty where you loosen up a little bit. You know, he doesn't have to drop a fastball on you, but you kind of think he might. And this is the deal where you might be able to get the barrel out. He didn't do it.
He's looking.
And you can outguess yourself too. Like in this day and age, 3 and 2s aren't necessarily a fastball anymore. And so if you have even the thought that he might throw some of those pitches he threw on the outside corner, a slider or a cutter, and you'll freeze up on that 4-seamer middle end, and that's what happened on a 3-2 count.
To the 3 spot, Easton Carmichael. He's got a couple of singles and he's driven in a run. Impressive player for Skip Johnson. Pops this one up. Burks giving it a look, but it's well foul.
So again, a lot of hitting is based on percentages and convincing yourself that that pitch is coming. And if it does, and it's over the plate, you get it, because especially if you've seen it before, the muscle memory of everything. And if you're wrong, you just take it. And with 2 strikes, you can't afford to do that, so it becomes more reactionary. But for me, like in that 3-2 count, you sell out to the fastball, and if you don't get it, you strike out, because you're going to try to get that barrel out in front. But at least you don't freeze up. Like, I don't mind striking out, swinging, but it really drives me crazy. And I've told all my kids that, don't take strike 3. Like, I don't care if you swing over your head.
Bat off the shoulder. Popped up to Ryan Schwartz. Quick inning there for Ethan Walker. Go to the bottom of the 7th. Kentucky's shot to add. An 8-5 lead for Kentucky over Oklahoma. First all-time matchup this series between these proud programs. Oklahoma looking like a tournament team in terms of their resume coming into this game. Kentucky among the last 4 in. A win here would go a long ways to making them a little more comfortable when Selection Day comes around. Also give them a series win against the number 17 Oklahoma team. Jaden Barfield faces second batter. It's Caius Gargett. He's been good over at third base and has embodied the Kentucky way of just finding different ways to get it done. He was hit by a pitch his last time up. He laces this between Willits and Willis for the single to left field. It's all that weightlifting he did when he was 10 years old.
That's right, national champion deadlift. Ambushes the first fastball here in the bottom of the 7th inning. You've had 3 at-bats already in this game, and the more you get comfortable with the tempo and the timing of everything, you're more likely to go after a first pitch, especially when you know it's coming. And he gets a grooved fastball in there, leadoff base hit for Gargett.
Here's Pat Herrera. Had the triple off that awkward bounce, little half swing, and this will go foul. That triple off the bounce over Christensen's head in right field.
The slash,
Yeah.
like what we talked about with Kentucky, it's amazing. Like, they do things still that people don't do anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, there's not a lot of stolen bases going on really anymore. There's not a lot of bunting early in games, and there certainly isn't what you just saw right there,
No.
like a square round a bunt, move the defense around, and then pull it back and try to slash, which works if you can put it in play, but it's not something that people use. And Kentucky, like Nick Mangiones has told us, whatever it takes, man.
And showing bunt now for Herrera, slashing again, and just taps it to Hamlin at first base, and it does the job of a sac bunt, moving him up 90.
So my deal is, I would argue at that point that it was a sac bunt. If I'm the hitter, like, you don't want the plate appearance, right?
Yeah.
Versus like a check swing.
You don't want the
you got
average
the
to go
job
down.
right. That's right. You got the job done, and it was like a half swing, I guess, but gets the job done nonetheless. They're trying to get them over to scoring position with 1 out.
But you bring up a great point about the things that Kentucky does that you just don't see in the game anymore. If you watch them for maybe not 1 series, but give them 2 series, Skip Johnson will make a change on the mound. They'll do pretty much everything you can possibly do offensively in a game. We'll see squeeze plays from a runner on third base as well. We'll see them straight steal home. It is everything. All the boxes are checked when it's Kentucky finding a way to manufacture a run.
And with their 18 outs that they've had so far in this game, 6 innings, they've pinned 8 runs on Oklahoma, so they can score.
Yeah. So Michael Catalano will be the new pitcher for Skip Johnson. Using that bullpen, trying to find some answers with his team down by 3. Lexington, Logan Lindo here with Todd Walker. After Kentucky's opening win against OU last night, Kentucky moves to 11-14 in conference play, 8 off the lead. Oklahoma 13-12, 6 games back. So you're talking about the number 10 and 12 spot in this SEC race.
4 games left for Texas. Arkansas got beat by LSU last night, so they dropped back to 2. But this would have been over last week. Texas rolled into Fayetteville, and if they had won 2 out of 3, it'd already be over. For the regular season, Texas would have won it, but instead they get swept. And so now, as you see, Georgia, LSU, Arkansas all have a shot, even Tennessee, to climb back in this with 4 or 5 games left.
Michael Catalano, the freshman from Frisco, Texas, will get the call from Skip Johnson. 19th appearance of the season.
Fastball about 65% of the time. The other 35% he's using the spinner. Doesn't have a changeup, so it's manipulating the curveball, 12-6 action, and then more of a slider action away from the right-handed barrel. Only 7 walks. He's accurate.
All right, you calling for it here with Ryan Schwartz?
You definitely be going for it. Like, it's in your mind. This game ain't necessarily out of hand, but it was a few innings ago, but he needs the home run for the cycle.
Has not hit a home run in this his freshman season. It was a single to left his first time up, a triple to center his second time up, and another double that was a missile to left last time we saw him. He's locked in, and that's up.
And he's got a count to do it. Yeah, I think I'm coming out of my shoes on this swing right here. 2-0. First base is open with 1 out, but man, once in a lifetime opportunity.
(2-0). Schwartz can be aggressive. And that's not the pitch. The throw back, not in time, but just enough to say, Kais Gargett, we know you're there. You can run. We'll see Kentucky very aggressive with the secondary leads. 3-0 count here. You get the green light.
No, not with 1 out.
And it's a 4-pitch walk. So going for the super cycle, I guess. Get a walk, maybe a hit batter in there, and then a home run.
Still a great day. On base all 4 times out of the 7-hole for Ryan Schwartz. And I always thought this was a good first pitch to swing at. So the pitcher's struggling, just walked a guy on 4 pitches. So he's going to try to correct it by throwing the first pitch fastball. And again, it's percentages. It's not guaranteed, but if I'm Cameron right here, I'm coming after this first fastball.
So I'll make a nice play in center field on the run to eliminate OU, getting a couple more runs. Very good defensive outfielder. Offense has been where it's been a little streaky for Cameron. He's had 4 balls over to the right side. None have made it out of the infield. 0 for 3. He is a burner.
Yeah, and so hitting's too difficult. So when you kind of have an idea what's coming, you usually jump at it. And after the first ball, now you know that Catalano's going to throw a fastball for a strike. And he takes it.
(1-2).
Got some ride on that fastball. It says 93. Looks a lot harder than that from up here.
And how real is that? Guys that you used to face in your playing days where it looked a lot harder than the gun said it was.
Nowadays, the guns are 100. You know, we didn't. I always say that I feel like the reaction time was the same from a guy throwing 95 20 years ago till 100 now.
Yeah.
You know, the guns are a little elevated, but
a little hot,
but we didn't measure spin rate and all that type of stuff. But there were some guys that got more strikeouts than others because they were able to throw that high spin rate, which means you throw the same pitch at the same velocity and it ends up in a different spot. That's spin rate. And we had Brett Laxton, who had a College World Series record, 16 strikeouts in 1993. He threw 130 some odd pitches in that game, complete game, threw 7 sliders, all fastballs. Struck out 16. I love
know
that
what
story.
you're good at.
Well, I love that story because in this day and age, when a kid comes up to you and says, "Hey, I got 5 different pitches. You know, I can do this and that." A lot of guys at the highest level only master 2 pitches. You know, like Tom Glavine, I think about. You know, certain guys that. You know, and really Tom Glavine was just, for me, a left-hand hitter, just cutters, you know, away, and was just, he had mastered it. And And that story with Blackston, you know, just all fastballs, struck out 16, shaking a lot, putting a little doubt in the hitter's mind makes a difference.
Down the line into the mid of Hamlin and makes the play.
But he was a high spin rate guy that we didn't know at the time.
You just knew it was different.
Right.
Here's Devin Burks trying to get going. A couple of walks and struck out looking his last time up. Trying to get insurance where you can in this SEC race. Not for the timid, tell you that much. Big boy baseball they play in this conference.
5 games left. Kentucky's at that 11-win mark. We all think the magic number's 13. And you think of a game like last night, they won a 1-run game. And now this one. You just can't let these get away this late in the season.
Burks out front, and it's 1-1.
So this is huge for Kentucky. I think more so than Oklahoma. Oklahoma's already in, I think, the field of 64. Kentucky's fighting to get in.
One from Catalano to center. Jason Walk, cool, casual, makes a catch. A couple left on. So OU still within striking distance. They just got to get some of these barrels to fall. To the 8th we go. Kentucky with the 8-5 lead over OU. Scott Butler has come through clutch for OU. They need more of that. He's got a home run, doubles, driven in 3. But the issue has been 11 free passes allowed, 4 hit batters, which Kentucky's always going to do, and 7 walks. Schwartz needs a home run for the cycle. He's been electric. And the Wildcats seeking their 2nd series win against a ranked opponent this season.
Set a record today, 133 hit by pitches for this Kentucky team. That's a school record.
Can't forget about that. They take a lot of pride in that, as they should. Part of the mentality of whatever it takes. That's the approach for Kentucky offensively. Defensively, it's really the way this program has been built. Played solid defense here today. Nick McKay was good off the bump. Had a little bit of a rocky start with OU tagging him with 2 runs in the top of the first, but came back, found his control, found his rhythm from there. Once they chased him from the game, OU was able to get 3 additional runs, and that has made it a little more competitive. OU, though, watching them, it just feels like, to your point, Todd, they found a lot of barrels. If they can get a couple of those to fall, they still have a chance in this game. Here's Jackson Willits. Willits drove in the 2nd run for the Sooners. Grounding to second base to drive in Jason Walk in the 1st. That's inside, and it's 2-2. Ethan Walker back out there for a 2nd inning of action. 3 up, 3 down against the Sooners in the 7th. Checking the pitch comm system. Another chance here for Jackson Willits. 7 hits for the Sooners here today. Left 4 on base. Butler in the 8th spot has been the biggest threat. Walker way inside. Looks like that could have clipped Willits. And it did. He's taking his stroll to first base. Now the fans here at UK don't agree, and he's been called back to home. It did not get a piece of him.
Fastball just gets away from Walker.
No.
And it didn't hit him. But You can't walk Willits to lead off this inning. You got a 3-run lead, but don't return the favor by gifting them first base, especially with no outs here in the 8th.
Down on strikes, Ethan Walker gets him.
That was filthy. And that's the day and age we live in now. We were talking about that during the break. This pitch, 3-2, was almost always a fastball. And Ethan Walker has the ability to land a slider. When that hitter's looking fastball and trying to get the barrel out, not going to miss, and dead red and all the things you think about as a hitter, when they drop an off speed on you, that's the way you're going to look. And it's just a nice pitch from Ethan Walker.
There's Kyle Branch, his first time up, had what we thought was a sac fly RBI to center field. It was challenged and overturned as it was ruled. Runner from third base left early. Still, I don't think we saw enough in that review sequence to warrant overruling a call on the field, but it certainly was a momentum changer in favor of Kentucky, and that gets away from Gargett. Fair ball. Branch motoring to second base. And Branch standing on second with 1 out.
That was going to be a difficult play for Gargett, even if he gloves it down the third baseline. Ball was off the end of the bat, so probably had a little spin to it, and just kind of he overran it a little bit. And even if he makes that backhand play, that is going to be a long throw across the diamond to try to get Kyle Branch, but double for Oklahoma.
Sam Christensen steps in. Throw is not in time, but letting Kyle Branch, we know you were there.
Yeah, I never really quite understand that, except keeping him close in case there's a base hit. Maybe he doesn't score, but he's not trying to steal third, especially with a left-handed hitter and a clear view for Burks over to third base.
Off speed off the mark. Well, Christensen had to learn it the hard way. Had the single his first time up, then was promptly picked off over at first base on the move from Nick McKay. And looks at strike one here. It's 1-1. Now 1-2.
Good chess match right here. When the hitter's looking for something, you throw something else. And Ethan Walker drops the slider on him. Now as a hitter, you're trying to tell yourself to stay back, and that's when you buzz the fastball.
Walker gets his second strikeout of the inning.
Same deal. So Christensen's looking for that slider because that's the sequence. And he gets a doubled up fastball that Burke's not able to hold on to. Still gets the call for the second out. But nice job by Ethan Walker thinking along with Sam Christensen and getting the strikeout.
There's Mason Hamlin hitting in the 7 spot. Has an infield single to his credit. And this is hit well to right field. Schwartz is going back, but he is right on it. So OU continues to find barrels, just not finding anything green. Going to the bottom of the 8th, Kentucky closing in on a dub.
Well, Kentucky leads the league with 9 triples. We'll get a look at a couple of them first. By Herrera, hits this bleeder over to right, takes a funky hop, gets all the way to the wall, and then this bullet by Schwartz into center field. Walk not able to keep it in front of him. 2 triples today for Kentucky, and they're loving it.
9 triples in conference play. They lead the SEC. 3 so far this weekend. OU is actually right up there as well. They've got 17 on the season when you include non-conference. And that is the best of the SEC, 17th nationally. So 2 teams where speed is a big part of what they do offensively. Kentucky now in the bottom of the 8th, trying to get a little more insurance. Tyler Bell will lead off. And Bell right into the glove of Mason Hamlin. And it looks like the hit streak will come to an end.
Man, he barreled it up back in the 6th inning to right field. Tyler Bell with 2 straight at bats. Really 3. Grounded into the double play, but
yeah.
Man, can that kid hit it hard and uses the entire field. Talked about him, 2nd-round pick, opted to go to college, and he's going to be a player.
So the highest player selected in last year's draft that elected to go to college. Bright future for Tyler Bell here in Lexington. And Luke Lawrence hitting in the 2 spot. 0 for 2. Has gotten on twice via the free pass, which has been the issue all day for OU. Big cut.
That's another one looks harder than 91. And the reason you swing at it as a hitter, it's closer to your eyes, and so you see it so well. But when it's got any velocity behind it, it's hard to catch up to. And saw that right there at 91, above the belt.
And another swing and a miss. So Michael Catalano providing some difficulty for the UK hitters here. One, 2 to Lawrence. It's been a perfect day here at the ballpark.
Very nice. I'm surprised more balls haven't left the yard. We've had 1, right? 1 home run?
Yep. Butler to right field. It's a good break from the game of college baseball, kind of going more towards the gorilla ball end of the spectrum recently. You need to sprinkle in some.
The offense since 2023 has really taken an uptick since the BB Corps was introduced back in 2011. And they really got a grip with the trampoline bats in the late 90s. You know, and then you didn't have a whole lot of offense, you know, through 2000, 2015, and then they came up with what they called the tightly wound seam baseball,
yeah.
You know, and then the offense started an uptick at that point. But, yeah, I mean, throughout the country, they're averaging over 7 runs a game, and the offense is back in college baseball.
I'm a fan. This one is flared, and Willis makes a stop. I think the balance is obviously the biggest thing you're striving for, because when the BB Corps bats first came through, I mean, no one wants to consistently go to the park and watch a 2-1 game.
And that's what you saw in Omaha for a few years.
Yeah.
Remember that? It was a graveyard
With
up
the
there,
huge park, too.
Huge
Yeah.
park, and then you're dealing with all that other. I mean, there were 2-1 games and balls getting blistered that weren't leaving the park, and they had to find a happy medium. Seems like they've done that, and we've had some high-scoring games in Omaha the last few years.
Here's Hage. It's just good to see him running around, playing the field. He had that massive collision with the left field fence in Starkville. Actually hit the fence twice, and that's a big body that can move quickly.
The fence is the only thing that wasn't going to move if Cole Hayes runs into you.
Yeah. Check swing here. Got to cover, and Catalano does, so good communication there with Hamlin and Catalano. Top of the 9th. Here we go. Kentucky looking for 3. Kentucky looking for the series win against OU. This would certainly boost their tournament resume. We got one more weekend left in SEC play after this. Then we go to Hoover, and then it is regional time. So these ones, they always count. The magnitude heightened at this time of year.
And Kentucky's only had 3 series wins out of the first 8 weeks. So this would be big for them at home.
Ethan Walker has been magnificent out of the bullpen for Kentucky. We'll try to get 3 quick ones. Scott Mudler, the only player to leave the park in this game with a solo home run to right field. He also drove in 2 on a double to right. So 3 of the 5 runs for OU driven in by their number 8 hitter. Ethan Walker spotting that one. It's no 2 count. Sean Montoya out in right field for the Wildcats. Just checking in. The stash game strong.
With the salad in the back.
Yeah. Now that's college baseball.
That's it. Like Mingione said about his offense, whatever it takes, whatever works.
You can tell he wants his players to have a personality and enjoy playing this game of baseball.
Well, how can you not? You know what I mean? I mean, again, the stress and everything else that goes along with it, your future when you're in college, we all can relate to that, you know, about what's going to happen. It all can pile up on you where you don't have fun. But the games that I had fun, it translates into playing as good as you can play. I mean, but it's easier said than done.
For a lot of these guys, it's coming closer to an end. Kentucky honored their seniors before the start of this game as Mudler goes down on strikes. Not all these players will be as fortunate as you were to play as long as you did in the big leagues.
Man, Ethan Walker just blazing fastballs right by Scott Mudler in the 8th spot, who already has a home run and a double in this game. And Ethan Walker just said, here, hit it. Struck him out.
4 strikeouts for Ethan Walker. Number 9 hitter, Dawson Willis. Pumping it is Walker. How about that? Good luck with that one, Dawson Willis.
On the outside corner.
One, 2. Ethan Walker looking for the put-away pitch. Won't get it here. A couple more pitches to work with. Kentucky has had a fantastic bounce back. First time in 21 series that they were swept in SEC play at Mississippi State. They've come back strong. 1-run win last night against OU. Holding on to a 3-run advantage here. And they had to respond. A gutsy 4 spot in the bottom of the first after OU put up 2 to start the game. Flared to the right side. And if there was not a net there, souvenir time. But look at that. The throng of kids hounding onto that baseball. Some athleticism out there, and the Sooner fan picks it up. Look what I got.
They'll remember that forever.
Absolutely. Two-two. Defensive swing. Another opportunity for Souvenir.
Kentucky really doesn't have a closer, but I like what Ethan Walker's doing. Predominantly fastballs. Let's fill up the zone. Let's go get them, especially with a 3-run lead. Don't mess around. This 2-2 is important because you don't want to walk this guy. So you got 2 pitches to play with. This, to me, is a shake fastball count. Put a little doubt in the hitter's mind, but go right after him.
Pitch number 8 to Dawson Willis. And still fighting. That's Walker continuing to go at him.
Yeah, and again, that's what you should do. Told you the story last night of a game I watched where they didn't go after him. On a 3-2 curveball, walks the guy, gives up a game-ending home run.
Don't get cute. Ethan Walker fires, hit well left field. Age has a run on it. Is able to make the play. Kentucky, 1 out away.
You just play the odds, and you know we don't do enough of that in baseball now. I mean, if a hitter's successful in college baseball 35% of the time, he's a superstar. So that means 65% of the time we're getting outs. And so I think in this day and age we get a little too afraid of contact, especially late in games like this. Go after him.
Top of the lineup, and Jason Walk. There's the first batter Walker faced upon entering the game. Walker's ahead 0-1. One strike away.
Simon Gregerson last night tried to hold a 1-run lead, did it for Kentucky. That closer spot's tough. And now Ethan Walker out there asking him to do the same thing. A little bit bigger of a lead.
Ball game. Ethan Walker fired up as he should be. He's helped Kentucky deliver a massive series victory. This one will look really good on a resume that's right on the cusp of having the Wildcats in the tournament.
4th series win for Kentucky on the year. That gives them their 12th win in SEC play. One step closer to the field of 64 for the Kentucky Wildcats.
Kentucky got a lot of help from OU as the Sooners pitching staff issued 11 free passes. Not going to win many games doing that.